Chapter 1278. Panic flashed across the eyes of the silver-eared piebald beast. Of course, it knew that what it did was taboo. It was understandable that the other party would be angry. But, it had waited here for a whole night and did not see Chu Luiyue. It thought that she did not know the rules of the beast park and wanted to take advantage of the situation. Who knew that she would come just as it started to move? It let out a low whimper and shook off some small pieces from its body. After it cleaned up its body, it retreated and bowed its head. It was begging for mercy. Unfortunately, this trick was useless against Chu Luiyue. If you have such awareness, why didn't you do it earlier? Chu Luiyue's words made the silver-eared piebald beast even more nervous. It was also present when the golden-black demonic wolf was killed yesterday. It had clearly seen the scene at that time. It was not as powerful as the golden-black demonic wolf. If the other party was determined to kill it, wouldn't it be dead meat? The silver-eared piebald beast took another step back with its tail between its legs. It looked panicked and scared. Only that pair of eyes were rolling around, as if they were planning something. Swoosh! At this moment, Chu Luiyue suddenly moved. She was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of the silver-eared piebald beast. After all, the silver-eared piebald beast was a mythical beast. It had sharp reflexes. It turned around and wanted to escape immediately. If you don't want to be stabbed in the heart, stay there obediently. Chu Luiyue shouted, causing the silver-eared piebald beast to stop abruptly. It hurriedly glanced and saw Chu Luiyue holding the red cloud sword in her hand. It looked like she was going to attack at any time. Buzz! The sound of the sword rang. The silver-eared piebald beast was frightened. In the end, it did not run away and lay on the ground obediently. Chu Luiyue landed and walked toward it. Thud! Thud! The rhythmic footsteps sounded like they were stepping on the beast's heart. The sharp tip of the sword glinted coldly. Clang! Chu Luiyue raised her hand and pointed the sword at the silver-eared piebald beast. The distance was less than an inch. As long as he moved forward a little more, she could easily assassinate him. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. You have been in the beast park for so long. Do you need me to tell you this? Chu Luiyue spoke casually, but the silver-ear spotted beast was almost scared out of its wits. It looked at Chu Luiyue pleadingly. Chu Luiyue looked at it calmly and attacked without hesitation. Chi! The two ears of the white-ear spotted beast were cut off by her. Woo! The sudden pain caused the silver-eared piebald beast to let out a mournful cry. Their ears were very important to them. If they were cut off, their hearing would be greatly affected, and their battle prowess would be greatly reduced. To them, having their ears cut off was an extremely severe punishment. It could even be said to be a humiliation. But at this moment, how could the silver-eared piebald beast, who had just managed to survive, have the mood to care about these things? Since this is your first offense, I'll give you a small punishment this time. If there is a next time. Chu Luiyue glanced at it indifferently. The silver-eared piebald beast did not care about its bleeding ears and hurriedly shook its head. There won't be a next time. There won't be a next time. Chu Luiyue then kept her sword. Get lost. With a command, the silver-eared piebald beast hurriedly ran away and disappeared completely in a short while. You actually didn't kill it. The legendary three-eyed eagle's voice carried a trace of surprise. Chu Luiyue sheathed her sword. It's not worth me using Red Cloud Sword. Using it once would consume a lot of energy. A silver-eared piebald beast was not worth it. From the beginning, she only wanted to use Red Cloud Sword for show. Moreover, if it returns alive, the news will spread. Chu Luiyue touched her chin. Killing two birds with one stone. Why not? she had already killed 2 of them. It was basically enough. As for the rest, as long as she put in more effort, it would be enough to deter them. Then, Chu Luiyue walked over and kept the black gold condensed stone on the ground. She then walked into the cave. The cave was average in width, but extremely narrow. After Chu Luiyue walked for a long distance, she finally saw the end. A large piece of black gold condensed stone was quietly entrenched in the deepest part of the cave. Chu Luiyue's eyes lit up. This was more than she had imagined. She quickly walked over and saw that some of the edges had been bitten off. Fortunately, it did not affect the whole thing much. This black gold condensed stone is at least 100 years old. The power it contains is extremely rich. It's suitable for that steelback beast cub. The legendary 3-eyed eagle said. Chu Luiyue nodded. Actually, she thought so too. With such a large piece, it should be enough for it to recover its strength as soon as possible. If it went well, it might even break through and become a divine beast in advance. Without another word, Chu Luiyue kept the black gold condensed stone. Then, she searched around and found some things one after another. Most of them were things that the black gold demonic wolf had obtained when it was alive. There were some divine beast bones, some medicinal herbs, and some random jade stones. Chu Luiyue ransacked most of the place before she finally finished and turned to leave. Walking out of the cave, Chu Luiyue paused for a moment, then flew in another direction. After a while, the legendary 3-eyed eagle realized that she did not seem to be going back. Where are you going? The legendary 3-eyed eagle already had a guess in its mind. Chu Luiyue raised an eyebrow. Don't forget, I killed a golden cloud panther yesterday. Of course, she was going to take the things over there as well. As expected. The legendary 3-eyed eagle immediately understood. Then, it asked, you know where the golden cloud panther's nest is? She did not seem to have asked it just now. Chu Luiyue's red lips curled up slightly. Of course. She had been there more than once. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1279. The legendary 3-eyed eagle quickly realized that things were more complicated than it had imagined. Because, it realized that Chu Luiyue seemed to be very familiar with the terrain here, as if she had been here many times before. She was familiar with the path and accurately headed towards the nest of the golden cloud leopard. The closer she got, the stronger the aura of the golden cloud leopard. This made the legendary 3-eyed eagle believe what she said just now. She really knew the location. After the incident between Chu Luiyue and the adult steel spine beast, the legendary 3-eyed eagle had roughly guessed that Chu Luiyue had indeed been here before. But wasn't she too familiar with this place? The terrain between the mountains was extremely complicated, and one could get lost if they were not careful. Most importantly, most of these mountains had been occupied by various mythical beasts, becoming their base. Chu Luiyue sometimes had to avoid offending the other party, so she had to choose to pass through from other positions. But this seemed to be very easy for her. She clearly knew the location of every mountain and every river here. The legendary 3-eyed eagle even suspected that she even knew what the mythical beasts on every mountain here were. After about an hour, Chu Luiyue finally arrived in front of a mountain. This was a very steep mountain, and the top seemed to have been shaved off by something. It was flat, revealing the grayish-white rocks. There were not many trees on it, and most of them were rocks. This was the favorite terrain of the golden cloud leopard. They liked to run back and forth on such steep cliffs, and because of this, they had trained their amazing climbing ability and explosive power. Of course, there was no point in talking about this now. Probably because the news of the silver ear spotted beast's injury had already spread, so when Chu Luiyue came this time, there were no mythical beasts around who wanted to take advantage of the situation. After sweeping the cliff clean, Chu Luiyue clapped her hands in high spirits and looked around. Where should I start? The legendary three-eyed eagle asked curiously. What? Ah, nothing. I just feel that there are still more than 20 days here. If I just cultivate in the cave, it will be really boring, so I want to find a few mythical beasts to spar with. Chu Luiyue laughed. Of course, the kind that doesn't use the Scarlet Cloud sword. She touched her chin, pondered for a moment, and said thoughtfully. I remember that among the mythical beasts that were about to besiege me yesterday, there were a few that lived nearby. Oh, let's start with Motionk. Motionk was a 9th-ranked demonic beast, but it had a fierce temperament and was extremely belligerent. In addition, it had the bloodline of the Vermilion Bird clan in its body, so its status was not low. In the beast park where there were many godly beasts, it had a place for itself. When Chu Luiyue was on the mountain, she was on the lookout at the top of the mountain. In the blink of an eye, they gathered into a dark mass and faced Chu Luiyue from afar as if they were facing a formidable enemy, calm. I won't use my sword today. You can send any one of you to fight with me. Let's stop when it's appropriate and not endanger each other's lives. How about it? Seeing that Chu Luiyue was so friendly, the mythical beasts chattered for a while. Finally, one of them flew out. The mythical beasts were not big. They were only the size of a palm. However, if anyone underestimated them, they would pay a high price. Chu Luiyue's mind moved. She instantly mobilized her force and surrounded her body. Swoosh! That mythical beast attacked first. Good! Hollered Chu Luiyue, and her body flew out like an arrow. A human and a mythical beast fought in close quarters. This kid is quite quiet today. Elder Yu, who was patrolling the edge of the mythical beast garden, muttered to himself. Seems like he has learned his lesson. No matter how stubborn he was, he should have calmed down after yesterday's thrilling battle. Today, these mythical beasts seemed to have quietened down. Even their daily roars could not be heard. They should be afraid of Chu Yu's sword. Elder Yu did not take this to heart. In fact, they had been letting the mythical beasts roam freely in the mythical beast garden. These mythical beasts were all intelligent. Without the intervention of others, they would form a balance on their own. All parties were fighting for supremacy and restricting each other. Now, there was only one more person, Chu Yu. Anyway, as long as he stayed here, these mythical beasts would not look for his Mafa mythical beasts. When the 1-month time limit was up, Chu Yu would be able to leave safely. Elder Yu rubbed his forehead as he thought about this. From yesterday until now, his mind had been in a state of high tension. It was only now that he was finally willing to relax a little. A sense of exhaustion and sleepiness instantly surged up. It was time to take a rest. Elder Yu checked the Xian formation in the area he was in charge of again. Then, he went back to sleep. Time passed by slowly. An hour later, Chu Luiyue walked out of Motionk's mountain. Her clothes were torn in a few places and looked a little messy. But fortunately, she was not injured. She took a deep breath and looked back. Touching her universe ring, she revealed a satisfied smile. I didn't expect Motionk to be so good at collecting treasures. In the distance, the few Motionk that finally managed to get Chu Luiyue to leave finally heaved a sigh of relief. She finally left. They thought that she was easy to bully, but who knew that she was a plague? Overbearing and unreasonable. He even almost emptied their homes. See you later. Chu Luiyue waved at them happily. The few heavenly sparrows scattered with a whoosh. See you. See what? Have a good trip home. One of the Motionk fell behind and flew away limping. From afar, half of the feathers on its wing were gone. It was the one that had sparred with Chu Luiyue just now. Chu Luiyue shrugged regretfully. You're still as boring as before. The legendary three-eyed eagle was speechless. You beat him up like that and stole his things. In the end, you still have the nerve to say that this is fun. Chu Luiyue kicked away a rock beside her feet and walked forward. Let's call it a day. The legendary three-eyed eagle's heart skipped a beat. Even if it was indifferent to other things, it was still a little shocked at this time. Call it a day. Do you plan to come again tomorrow? Nope. Chu Luiyue shook her head. The legendary three-eyed eagle heaved a sigh of relief, but then it heard Chu Luiyue say again. I've taken everything here, and I've taken revenge for the siege that day. There's no point in coming again. We'll change places tomorrow. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1280. The legendary three-eyed eagle was speechless. There were so many beasts that attacked you yesterday. Are you going to challenge every single one of them? Of course not. Chu Luiyue explained patiently as she walked forward. Actually, I was in the wrong in the first place. I shouldn't have chosen to break through here at this time. Furthermore, I broke through to the 8th level. This is a huge temptation to the beasts in the Beast Park. It's normal for them to go there. However, during the battle yesterday, I gave them an ultimatum. I also gave them time to regret and retreat. It's a pity that not all beasts are so tactful. Chu Luiyue thought for a while and counted with her fingers. Yesterday, other than the golden-black demonic wolf that took the initiative to step forward, there are a total of 13 godly beasts and 7 ninth-grade beasts that stayed at their original positions. If they didn't retreat, it would be considered a challenge. Let me think, there are a total of 20 of them. Then I'll take one a day. I should be able to understand all of them before I leave. The legendary three-eyed eagle was really shocked. It didn't expect Chu Luiyue to be able to remember all these when she was in such a dangerous situation. Of course, with her photographic memory, this book wasn't difficult. It was just a matter of looking at it a little longer. But, do you really intend to challenge all of them? The legendary three-eyed eagle was in disbelief. You were able to win today because Enchanting is only a 9th-grade beast with limited combat power. However, if you really face those godly beasts and don't use Red Cloud Sword, I'm afraid you won't have much of a chance of winning. Chu Luiyue wasn't angry because the legendary three-eyed eagle didn't have a good impression of her. On the contrary, she was very happy. Because she knew that the legendary three-eyed eagle was really thinking for her. I didn't say that I must win. Chu Luiyue's expression became more serious. These godly beasts are of different species, but they are all very powerful and have their own merits. If I can have a good fight with them, I will definitely benefit greatly. One had to know that the beasts in the Beast Park were all wild and bloodthirsty beasts. They were different from the beasts that had formed contracts with humans. How could Chu Luiyue not know that such a battle would be more bloody and cruel? However, this was the only way to increase her combat power faster and more directly. Ever since she entered this place, Debao hadn't come. Without the daily abuse, she still felt empty in her heart. Chu Luiyue sighed. She had been led astray by Debao. I see. The legendary three-eyed eagle's words. It had to be said that this was indeed a bold and crazy move. But if she could really persevere, Chu Luiyue's abilities would definitely increase greatly. Moreover, she had just broken through to the 8th rank, and it was time for her to polish herself. Actually, you don't have to worry. If I really can't win, I can still ask for help. Elder Yu and the others reacted very quickly. But for now, let's keep a low profile. Otherwise, you'll be criticized again. Chu Luiyue was very careful about this. Even when she sparred with Enchanting, she deliberately chose a more remote place and ended the battle quickly before it caused a commotion. Aren't you afraid that these beasts will leak the news? A mysterious smile appeared on Chu Liyue's face. Which beast do you think is willing to take the initiative to tell others that they have lost? Especially these beasts in the Beast Park. Anyone with a bit of temper and backbone wouldn't do such a thing. Therefore, no matter what the result was, they could only accept it silently. The legendary three-eyed eagle. You planned this long ago. She beat them up and snatched their things. In the end, she didn't even give them a chance to complain, she was simply beating them to death. Chu Liyue said very modestly, not at all. No, I didn't know that I would be sent here, did I? In the end, I just borrowed some experience from my predecessors. There's nothing to praise. The legendary three-eyed eagle. When did it praise her? Suddenly, a trace of doubt flashed through its mind. There shouldn't be many people who can do such a thing. Your experience. Who exactly did you borrow from? Chu Liyue waved her hand coolly. Sigh, I did it myself. Why did she say that she had already gained experience in doing this? The legendary three-eyed eagle had been following her all this time and basically understood some of her secrets. Therefore, Chu Liyue didn't deliberately hide this matter. But I really didn't do it on purpose in the past. At that time, a few divine beasts bullied Aqiong and dragged me into it. They chased after me and beat me up. What could I do? Chu Liyue sighed. Thinking of the years back then, she couldn't help but feel sad. I had no choice but to deal with them. The legendary three-eyed eagle. Originally, I came here with the intention of staying well. Who knew that such a thing would happen? They had already bullied me. If I didn't resist, wouldn't it be too aggrieved? Chu Liyue said seriously. But it's not good to offend too many, so I only chose those who didn't leave at that time. In this way, even if she was found out one day, she could justifiably defend herself. The legendary three-eyed eagle silently mourned for the many evil beasts in the Beast Park for 3 seconds in its heart. It was better to offend the natural enemy than to offend Chu Liyue. After returning, Chu Liyue saw Aqiong standing at the entrance of the cave waiting for her before she walked halfway up the mountain. Seeing her smiling face, it seemed that everything went well. Aqiong's heart settled down. Chu Liyue walked over. How's Taotao's recovery? As soon as Chu Liyue finished speaking, she heard the footsteps coming from inside. A big head carefully and curiously popped out. Chu Liyue couldn't help laughing. It seems that it's not bad. The recovery ability of the steel spine beast was definitely one of the best even among the divine beasts. Taotao's blood is very strong. Maybe he will be more powerful than you in the future. Chu Liyue said seriously. There was a smile in Aqiong's eyes. Praising children often made them happy and proud more easily than praising their parents. Hearing that he was praised, Taotao was shy, which was rare. He retracted his head. Chu Liyue walked inside. I brought back some gadgets today. Some are for you, Aqiong, and some are for Taotao. As she said, she entered the cave. Under the gaze of the mother and the son, she took out today's trophies. Bang! The huge black gold condensed stone fell to the ground, making a muffled sound. Chu Liyue patted it. Taotao, you can eat this when you get better in a few days. Taotao didn't know what it was, but he could keenly perceive the amazing energy contained in it. He immediately became excited and walked around it for several laps. Aqiong was surprised at first, and then she looked at Chu Liyue gratefully. Chu Liyue blinked her eyes. Don't worry. Before I leave, I will definitely return you a healthy and strong Taotao. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from iWa. Chapter 1281. In the days that followed, Chu Luiyue lived a very regular life. Every day during the day, she would find a magical beast to spar with. If she won, she would eat and take the other party's belongings. If she lost, she would fight again and again. If she couldn't win, she would run. Thanks to the fact that she had broken through to the 8th rank, her speed was quite fast when she was escaping. Occasionally, when she was forced to retreat, she would teleport. The other party chased after her and ran back, but with Aqiong holding the fort, they could only return resentfully. All in all, Chu Luiyue had a very smooth time, and after a series of tough battles, her combat strength was soaring rapidly. And all of this, Elder Yu Yu and the others did not notice. In the end, it was safe and sound. Immortal Water Mausoleum. Jiang Jiwan rushed all the way back and finally arrived at the fastest speed. Outside the Jiang residence, the guards in charge of guarding saw Jiang Jiwan return from afar and were all shocked. They looked at each other and hurriedly came up to greet her. "Eldest young miss. Why didn't you inform us in advance that you were coming back? We could have gone to pick you up." Jiang Jiwan did not stop and went straight into the residence. "Where's father?" Seeing her in a hurry and travel-worn, it seemed like she had something urgent to deal with. The guards did not dare to delay and hurriedly said, "The patriarch is in the residence." Hearing this, Jiang Jiwan felt a little relieved and rushed over at an even faster speed. "Eldest young miss is back." One of the guards hurriedly jogged to catch up, while the other ran even faster and went to the front to report. Soon, the news spread throughout the Jiang residence. Jiang Jiwan's status was noble. When they heard that she had returned, many people in the residence hurriedly came out to welcome her. In the past, Jiang Jiwan would still put on an act, but today, she was not in the mood. She did not even spare these people a glance and went straight to Jiang Hetian's courtyard. She blew past like a gust of wind, leaving everyone confused. This. What happened to eldest young miss? Why is her face so ugly? I've never seen young mistress like this before. It's as if her entire body is covered in ice. In the past, young mistress would greet us cheerfully whenever she saw us. Today, I don't think she did it on purpose. Look at how anxious she is. Perhaps she really has something urgent. Forget it, forget it. This isn't something we can discuss. Let's disperse. Jiang Ziyuan didn't pay attention to these words and walked straight ahead. As soon as he reached the gate of the courtyard, Jiang Hetian, who had heard the news, came out. His face, which had been full of joy and happiness, instantly froze when he saw Jiang Jiwan's cold and anxious expression. "Father." Seeing Jiang Hetian, Jiang Jiwan finally felt relieved and could not help calling out to him. Jiang Hetian's heart sank, and he hurried forward. "Ziyuan, what happened to you?" For so many years, Jiang Jiwan had always been decent and generous in his eyes. He was proud of her. He had never seen her so haggard and anxious. Although her clothes were luxurious and her hair was exquisite, it still could not hide the fatigue on her face. Vaguely, there was even a hint of embarrassment. "Father," Jiang Jiwan was just about to speak when she remembered that there were still some people around, so she hesitated. Jiang Hetian understood tacitly. "If there's anything, let's go inside. You can tell father slowly." With that, the two of them walked back into the house, leaving the confused crowd outside. "Ziyuan, what's wrong?" As soon as they entered the house, Jiang Hetian could not help but ask worriedly. Jiang Jiwan took a deep breath and asked, "Father, why didn't you reply to my letter?" "Reply? What letter?" Jiang Hetian asked in surprise. Seeing him like this, Jiang Jiwan immediately understood something. "You didn't receive my letter. I specifically placed it in the 1,000-device bird's body and sent it back." Jiang Hetian shook his head. I've been in the Immortal Water Mausoleum all this time, but I really didn't receive any news from you. Jiang Ji-won gritted her teeth. As expected. Father, I wrote you a letter before, but it must have been intercepted. That's why you didn't receive it. No wonder. No wonder she waited for so long, but there was no reply from father. So there was a problem. What's the matter that made you so anxious? Also, there shouldn't be many people who would dare to intercept your letter. Who could it be? Jiang Ji-won shook her head. I don't know either. Although it was a long journey from the academy to the Immortal Water Mausoleum, there had never been an accident when she sent letters before. This time, someone must have done it on purpose. It was just that they would not be able to find out in such a short time. We can investigate this matter later. I came back this time because I have something I need your help with. Jiang Ziyuan paused for a moment. After sorting out her thoughts, she briefly recounted what had happened in the academy recently. After hearing this, Jiang Hetian frowned. So, you suspect that there's something wrong with that Chu Yu's identity? Yes. Rong Xiu's attitude toward him is really unusual, which makes people suspicious. Jiang Ji-won bit her lip. Also, he also has a red-tailed phoenix like Shang Wanyu. This is too much of a coincidence. Jiang Hetian asked, You're guessing that Chu Yu is from Shang Wanyu? Jiang Ji-won nodded hesitantly. Jiang Hetian fell silent. He paced back and forth in the room with his hands behind his back. After a long while, he said, Your suspicion is not impossible, but there's no news from the Yuntian Tower that the princess consort has left. With Shang Wanyu's current status, it was impossible for her to go anywhere quietly. Ever since she was chosen as the princess consort, she had been staying in the Yuntian Tower. Why would she appear in Lingxiao College, which was thousands of miles away? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1282. Who knows if Shang Wanyu is still in the Yuntian Tower? Jiang Ji-won's mind was exceptionally clear at this moment. She gritted her teeth and could not hide her jealousy. Rong Xiu dotes on her so much that he even offended the elders for her. What's the big deal if he secretly arranged for her to leave? In any case, other than himself, only his trusted aides could go up to his bedroom. Even if something really happened, how would outsiders know? The more Jiang Ji-won thought about it, the more she felt that her suspicions were likely to be true. The reason I'm writing this letter to you is to ask you to investigate the situation in Yuntian K. But this letter was blocked. It's obvious that someone is secretly stopping me from investigating Chu Yu's matter. Jiang Ji-won's words made Jiang Hetian waver. Your guess is not without reason, but now Yuntian K is heavily guarded. It's as difficult as ascending to the heavens to get any information, let alone the most important ones. Ziyuan, you've really made things difficult for your father this time. Jiang Ji-won was stunned. How could this be? Weren't we there before? Jiang Hetian immediately looked at her warily. Jiang Ji-won immediately fell silent. After the princess was chosen, the structure of the Yuntian Tower changed greatly. Some of them are almost empty. Rong Xiu did nothing on the surface and went to Lingxiao College leisurely. But in fact, he had already made a plan in secret. His actions were steady, accurate, and ruthless. They did not even have time to fight back. Right now, those people were already in a very difficult situation, so why would they help them? Ever since Jiang Ji-won lost her position as the princess, their attitude toward the Immortal Water Tomb had deteriorated day by day. Jiang Ji-won's heart slowly sank. Is there no other way? Sigh, Jiang Hetian shook his head and sighed. If the patriarch could come out now, he might say a few words for us, but now, no one knew when the patriarch would come out, but with the current situation, how could they afford to wait? Both father and daughter fell into silence. There was dead silence in the room. After a while, Jiang Jiwon suddenly said, "Then let's check Shengguan Yu." Jiang Hitian was stunned. "What?" Jiang Jiwon narrowed her eyes and said word by word. Rong Xiu admitted that Shengguan Yu was the woman he was engaged to when he was still in Empire Yaoqin. If we want to find out the background of this Shengguan Yu, we can just send someone there and investigate. Who knows, maybe that Chu Yu is also from that side, and we can find some problems together. The more Jiang Jiwon thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. "Father, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles." Jiang Hitian was still a little hesitant. "It's not impossible, but if Rong Xiu knows that we're secretly investigating the identity of the princess consort, so what if he knows?" Jiang Jiwon sneered. "The princess consort of the Yuntian Tower should be of noble birth and upright. If she can't even withstand such a small investigation, it only proves that there's something wrong with her identity and she's not worthy of being the princess consort." Jiang Hitian sighed inwardly. His daughter was good at everything, but she was particularly impulsive and irrational when it came to matters related to Rong Xiu. Shengguan Yu was no longer a candidate for the princess consort, but a real princess consort of the Yuntian Tower. Some things could no longer be done according to the previous plan. However, she didn't seem to have realized this problem. "Father." Jiang Jiwon couldn't help but frown when her father didn't respond for a long time. Jiang Hitian's heart ached when he saw her like this, but he could only nod. "Okay, I'll send someone to investigate later." Jiang Jiwon was satisfied. "Thank you, father. I know that you're the best to me." Jiang Hitian laughed and patted her on the head. "Well, you can finally rest assured now, right? Look at your travel-worn face. You must have rushed back without stopping, right? Was the journey tiring? Take a hot bath and have a good rest later." Jiang Jiwon was touched and nodded vigorously. However, Jiang Hitian's next sentence froze her smile on her face. "By the way, how long did you ask Elder Danqing for this time?" After hesitating for a while, Jiang Jiwon said vaguely. "He didn't say the specific time. I wanted to come back, so I told Master that I would go back after dealing with some personal matters." Master also agreed. "Ah. He didn't say the time." Jiang Hitian was very surprised. "Then don't fall behind on your homework at the academy." Jiang Jiwon had already asked for leave once because of the concubine selection at the Yuntian Tower. It hadn't been long before she asked for leave again. This time, she didn't even have a fixed time. She didn't know if Elder Danqing would think too much about it. Besides, it wouldn't be good if word got out. Strength is everything. No matter what, you can only get everything you want if you're strong enough. "Father, you're worrying too much." Jiang Jiwon forced a smile. "When have I ever lagged behind others in this aspect? I'll go back after I adjust at home." Jiang Hitian nodded, slightly relieved. "You've always been the most sensible. I won't say anything else. You know what you're doing." Jiang Jiwon could only bite the bullet and agree. The father and daughter chatted for a while more before they went their separate ways. Jiang Jiwon went back to rest, while Jiang Hitian began to send people out to investigate the Shengguan Yu incident. The Jiang residence was still peaceful, as if nothing had changed. In the Lingxiao College. 1 month passed in a hurry. In a twinkling of an eye, it was the last day when Chu Luiyue was kept in the Beast Park. Early in the morning, Chu Luiyue got up. She swallowed the force and adjusted her breath. After letting the force run for a big circle in her body, she opened her eyes again and exhaled a long breath of foul air. She felt refreshed. She had to admit that she had a very comfortable time in the Beast Park in the past month. After all, not everyone could have the opportunity to fight with so many powerful monsters. At this moment, a familiar voice came from outside. Chu Yu. You can go out today. It was Elder Yu Yu who called her outside. Ah Cheong and Tao Tao both looked over. Chu Luiyue stood up and tidied up her clothes. Then she smiled at them. I'm leaving today. There was a trace of reluctance in Ah Cheong's eyes. Tao Tao hesitated for a long time. Then he stood up and walked to the door of the cave. He sat down with resistance all over his body. Chu Luiyue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Tao Tao, you don't want me to leave, do you? Tao Tao turned his head and refused to speak. He was so stubborn. Chu Luiyue felt warm in her heart. In fact, after getting along with each other during this period, she and Tao Tao had been much closer. She was also very reluctant to leave Tao Tao. Don't worry. I'll still be in the school later. I'll come to see you when I have the chance. Chu Yu. Elder Yu Yu saw that she hadn't come out yet, so he urged her. Chu Luiyue walked over and patted Ah Cheong and Tao Tao. Tao Tao made way for her obediently. He looked down at Chu Luiyue with grievance. Patter. A teardrop the size of a fist fell and landed on Chu Luiyue's hand. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from iWa. Chapter 1283. The sad and reluctant atmosphere was broken in an instant. Chu Luiyue's mouth twitched. She looked up at Tao Tao and said seriously, Tao Tao, you have swallowed such a big piece of black gold condensed stone. You will be a big boy in the future. Don't cry so easily, okay? Tao Tao nodded hard, and several big drops of tears were thrown out. Chu Luiyue was hit again without warning. She wiped her face. Then. I'll go first. Elder Yu Yu waited for a while. When he was about to go in to find her, Chu Luiyue finally came out from inside. He looked at Chu Luiyue's wet face in surprise. Chu Yu, what's wrong with you? Chu Luiyue coughed. Nothing. I just washed my face. Why did you come so early? You even came to pick me up specially. Elder Yu Yu didn't take it seriously and said with a smile, after all, it's the last day. Your master must be anxious. I promised him that I would take good care of you. Now, of course, I'm responsible for sending you out safely. He raised his chin. Let's go. Chu Luiyue nodded. When they were just about to leave, there was a reluctant cry behind them. Chu Luiyue looked back. It was Ah Cheong and Tao Tao who stood at the entrance of the cave to say goodbye to her. She waved her hand. It seems that they are still reluctant to leave you. A hint of curiosity surfaced on Elder Yu Yu's face. The steelback beast is indifferent and difficult to get close to. I didn't expect that they were very close to you. In fact, he wanted to ask about this for a long time, but he didn't have a chance before. Until now, he didn't know how Chu Yu established such a deep friendship with the mother and son of the steelback beast. Especially the adult steelback beast, in order to protect Chu Yu, it could even give up its own child. It was really shocking. Chu Luiyue smiled. Maybe, it's fate. Seeing that Chu Luiyue didn't want to talk more, Elder Yu Yu understood and didn't continue to ask. In any case, he already understood that this Chu Yu was indeed different from ordinary people. There were many things that were impossible in the eyes of others, but he easily accomplished them. He had no choice but to be convinced. Some people were born with good luck. Your aura seems to be much stronger than before. Elder Yu Yu originally wanted to check on Chu Luiyue's current strength, but he remembered that she had a divine artifact that concealed her aura, so he couldn't detect it. But vaguely, there were still some obvious changes. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows. The energy of heaven and earth is abundant here, and it's quiet and peaceful. It's the most suitable place for cultivation. I've been here for a month, so it's normal for me to improve a little, right? Quiet. Peaceful. Elder Yu Yu's expression became strange. Did Chu Yu have some misunderstanding about the Beast Park? Not to mention anything else, just based on the situation on the night when he was about to break through to the 8th rank, it definitely had nothing to do with these 2 words. Don't you think so? The Beast Park has become much quieter recently. Chu Luiyue asked. Elder Yu Yu thought for a while and hesitated. It seems, a little, in the past, when he was patrolling, he would occasionally hear the roars and cries of some demonic beasts, but it did seem to be much lesser recently. It's probably because the incident that night was too big, Elder Yu Yu said with uncertainty. Chu Luiyue didn't expose him, but nodded in agreement. Elder Yu Yu's words make sense. In that case, I'm still quite lucky. As they spoke, the 2 of them had already arrived in front of the Xian Formation. Through the translucent Xian Formation, Chu Luiyue already saw 2 familiar figures. Elder Yu Yu raised his hand, and a crack appeared in the middle of the Xian Formation. Disciple. Elder Wanjing couldn't hide his excitement as he shouted. Come out quickly. Let Master take a good look. Chu Luiyue's heart warmed as he stepped out. Elder Wanjing took 2 steps forward and looked at her carefully. After confirming that she was really fine, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Luiyue smiled and comforted him. Master, don't worry, I'm doing very well. You've been suffering in there, how good can you be? Seeing her smiling face, Elder Wanjing's heart ached even more. Don't worry. From today onwards, we won't come to this place anymore. A rare look of hesitation flashed across Chu Luiyue's face. This. Master, actually this place is really quite good. She was living quite happily, and had even picked up quite a few good things. Seeing her like this, Elder Wanjing only thought that she didn't want to refute Bo Yan, so he didn't say much, and only patted her arm. Good disciple. To be able to stay safely in the Beast Park for a month and even make a big breakthrough, who wouldn't be envious of him, Wanjing, for having such a good disciple? Chu Luiyue saw that he had already confirmed many things, and it wasn't easy to explain, so she could only let him be. You've done well this time. Elder Bo Yan stood at the side, and after sizing up Chu Luiyue, he nodded his head approvingly. You've become much more mature and sensible. It seems that it was right to send Chu Yu here this time. Remember this lesson, and don't do it again in the future. Chu Luiyue replied seriously. Thank you for your teachings, Elder Bo Yan. I've indeed benefited a lot this time. Wasn't it refreshing to fight with so many 9th grade magical beasts and even divine beasts one by one? Sigh, what a pity, I don't know when I'll have such an opportunity again. Elder Bo Yan's admiration for Chu Luiyue increased by a few notches. Good, good, good. It's great that you can think this way. As he spoke, he sighed. If only Jun Juqing could think the same way as you. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1284. Chu Luiyue suddenly looked up. Sensing her reaction, Elder Wanjing asked curiously. Disciple, what's wrong? Chu Luiyue came back to her senses and smiled. Nothing, I'm just curious. The person that Elder Bo Yan mentioned, could it be? Has he received the same punishment as me? Elder Bo Yan shook his head. That's not it. It's just that he has also done something wrong, so he received the corresponding punishment. But from the beginning to the end, his attitude has been very stubborn, unlike you. Not only was he stubborn, he simply wouldn't change. In this aspect, he was exactly the same as his master. Perhaps it was because he had long seen through this trait of Jun Juqing's that he had always been so protective of him. Forget it, it's all in the past, let's not talk about it. Elder Bo Yan directly ended the topic. Chu Liuyue's lips moved slightly, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Elder Bo Yen and Elder Bo Yen personally sent Chu Liyue back to Mount Zhuheng. After a lot of things had happened during this period of time, they had already habitually placed Chu Liyue and Rongxiu together. Therefore, they naturally sent her back here. After Elder Bo Yen said a few more words, he left, giving the master and disciple some space to talk in private. The moment his figure disappeared, Elder Wanzheng looked at Chu Liyue. "Disciple, do you know Jun Juqing?" Chu Liyue smiled. "I don't know him." "Why did master suddenly ask about this?" Elder Wanzheng stared at her and shook his head. "You don't have to lie to master. When you mentioned him, your expression was obviously a little strange. You must know him, or at least have heard of him, right?" The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Chu Liyue sighed in her heart. It was also because Elder Bo Yen mentioned it too suddenly that she was too shocked and couldn't control her expression. She was silent for a moment. "I've heard of him." Elder Wanjing asked again. "Did Rongxiu tell you?" Chu Liyue's eyes flashed and nodded. Sigh. "I knew it." Elder Wanjing suddenly let out a long sigh, as if he had already expected this to happen. "He has a deep grudge with Jun Juqing. You're so close to Rongxiu, so it's normal that you've heard of his name." Chu Liyue's brows furrowed slightly. At first, she thought that it was Rongxiu, because she had pushed the blame on Rong. But now, it seemed, She didn't say anything. In Elder Wanzheng's eyes, it was a silent agreement. Actually, Jun Juqing was a good seedling, but unfortunately, he has a gloomy mind and an extreme temper. When he encounters some things, his reaction will often lead things to develop in an uncontrollable direction. But this kind of evaluation was only known among the elders. It wasn't appropriate to say it to a student. But you don't have to care too much about that. Just do your own thing. Chu Liyue couldn't help but ask. What's the conflict between Senior Rongxiu and Jun Juqing? She had known that the two of them didn't get along, but from what Elder Wanjing said, it seemed to be quite serious. Elder Wanjing knocked on her forehead. You shouldn't be concerned about these things. No matter what happened between them, you just have to adjust your attitude and cultivate well. Chu Liyue rubbed her head and answered obediently. Oh. Okay, you can go back first. Have a good rest today. Come to my place tomorrow. Since you've made a breakthrough, I want to see how strong you are now. Chu Liyue nodded and said. By the way, Master, I've almost used up all the herbs I have. I want to go to the Medicine Wind Valley to get some. What do you think? Elder Wanjing waved his hand. Just go and get it. It's all on my account. The smile on Chu Liyue's face became even more sincere. After sending Elder Wanjing away, she turned and entered Zhuheng Mountain. This barrier was specially set up by Rongxiu. Only the two of them could open it. Of course, Dugu Mabao was an exception. After returning to the mountain, Chu Liyue went straight to her residence. But after looking around, she found that Rongxiu didn't seem to be here. Then she searched inside and outside the house, and even many places on the mountain, but still couldn't find Rongxiu. Looking at the empty room, Chu Liyue was a little dazed. She subconsciously thought that Rongxiu was here, so she didn't ask much when she was with Elder Bo Yen and the others. Could it be? Was he punished for what happened before? But even I'm back, why is Rongxiu still nowhere to be seen? There's no need to look. He still has half a month before he's back. A cold and cute voice rang out. Chu Liyue was delighted. Debao. She followed the direction of the voice and took a few steps inside. She realized that Dugu Mabao was indeed in the cubicle. Why are you here? she asked in surprise and astonishment. Dugu Mabao glanced at her indifferently, as if he was speechless that she would ask such a question. Chu Luyue coughed embarrassedly. Well, I mean, it's daytime now. I didn't expect you to be here. According to Dugu Mabao's habits, he usually appeared in the evening or at night. Dugu Mabao did not respond to Chu Luyue's words. Obviously, he felt that Chu Luyue's words were meaningless. Chu Luyue, who was despised, did not mind and continued to walk over happily. In Dugu Mabao's place, it was normal to be despised. If she was not despised, it meant that she was done for. Over time, Chu Luyue got used to it. Every time she bumped into that cold and disdainful expression on his face, she only wanted to do one thing: to rub his face hard. Of course, she had the intention but no guts. In the past, she still dared to be a little presumptuous, but ever since she started cultivating with Dugu Mabao, Chu Luyue had restrained herself a lot. The feeling of being ruthlessly crushed on the chessboard was too painful. This was enough for her to resist the urge to pinch his little face, and not even a trace of it remained. Where did he go? Why did he take so long? Chu Luyue looked at him curiously. This matter should be confidential. How do you know so much about it? He's not in the academy. Dugu Mabao was a man of few words. He only gave half an answer and turned a deaf ear to Chu Luyue's other questions. You broke through to level 8. Hearing him change the topic abruptly, Chu Luyue had the urge to pinch his little chubby face again. However, her remaining rationality made her hold back. If Dugu Mabao did not want to talk about it, it would be futile to ask him. Moreover, it might even accumulate more disdain. I broke through a few days after I entered the Beast Park. Chu Luyue walked over and sat opposite Dugu Mabao. Dugu Mabao stared at her. I'll fight with you. Wonderful book house. Chapter 1285. What? Chu Luyue's eyes widened slightly, almost suspecting that she had heard wrongly. You want to fight me? Chu Luyue pointed at her nose and asked in disbelief. Dugu Mabao frowned. Why, you don't want to? That's not it. Chu Luyue quickly denied. What a joke. It was difficult for ordinary people to meet a powerhouse of this level, and it was extremely rare to be able to fight with him and get some pointers. No matter how depressed she was, she wouldn't say, I don't want to. I'm just a little surprised. After all, she had known Dugu Mabao for so long. Other than playing chess, she had never really fought with him. Even when he trained her as a warrior, he only threw out a few puppets and never fought personally. Hence, Chu Luyue was still very surprised when she heard him say this out of the blue. Although you're still a long way from becoming a god-level powerhouse, you're already a rank 8 warrior after all. It won't be that easy to fall apart in a fight. Dugu Mabao commented very calmly. Chu Luyue's mouth twitched slightly. What are you saying? What do you mean it won't be that easy to fall apart? Is this the only effect I have after working so hard to break through to rank 8? Dugu Mabao glanced at her. Chu Luyue said solemnly, please advise me. The location of the two's battle was still in the room. Chu Luyue looked at the expensive furniture around her and hesitated. Big Bao, are we really not going out to fight? This place is so small, we can't use our full strength, right? And if we destroy these furniture, it won't be good. There's no need for that. Dugu Mabao said lightly. Chu Luyue choked. This was the most disdainful and contemptuous sentence she had ever heard in her life. She felt that she was usually good with words, but every time she met Dugu Mabao, she would always lose without any suspense. However, she couldn't think of any rebuttal. Who asked the other party to crush him in all aspects? She took a deep breath, and the expression in her eyes became much more serious. She slightly crossed her legs, and the muscles all over her body tightened. The origin power in her dantian also began to circulate rapidly. In just a split second, she had completely entered her battle mode. A faint look of satisfaction flashed across Dugumabao's eyes and disappeared in an instant. Looks like I have not wasted my 1 month in the Beast Park. Chu Liuyue's combat strength was not weak, but it was more or less limited. After breaking through to the 8th rank, she persisted in her peak state and fought with many mythological beasts for a month. She had almost completely improved her abilities in all aspects. Even though her level hadn't changed, her observation skills, sensitivity, and other aspects had all increased by more than a little. This was especially important in a battle between experts. Therefore, when she faced Dugumabao, she was able to quickly mobilize all the strength in her body. Chu Luyue bent his knees slightly and stared intently at Dugumabao. Whoosh! In the next moment, her figure vanished on the spot. She attacked first. She threw a punch. Then, Dugumabao raised his hand and straightened his palm in front of him. Boom! Chu Liuyue's punch was ruthlessly thrown out. Very quickly, it encountered an invisible and astonishing force and produced a dull sound. In an instant, her entire palm seemed to have collided with an extremely hard steel plate. Her mind went blank for a moment. But very quickly, intense numbness and soreness came from her palm. Her palm was almost shattered at this moment. A tyrannical force rebounded. Chu Luyue bore the brunt of the impact. Her body instantly flew backward and was about to hit the wall behind her. She gritted her teeth and quickly threw out a palm. She relied on the cushioning force to prevent herself from hitting the wall. Even so, this short exchange of energy caused her to lose her balance and almost fall to the ground. Chu Luyue held on to the armrest of the chair beside her and barely managed to stabilize her body. Looks like I have to continue practicing. Dugumabao's voice came from behind her. Chu Luyue pursed her lips and turned back to look. Dugumabao's expression was calm and indifferent. It was as if he had already expected all of this to happen. Chu Luyue's feelings were very complicated. Because from the beginning to the end, she did not even touch Dugumabao's palm. He only raised his hand and the aura around him was enough to crush her. Of course, she knew that she was no match for him. But she had never thought that her all-out attack was not even qualified to exchange blows with him. After a long while, she said, "You. Why did you want to exchange blows with me?" There was a huge disparity in strength between the two of them. To her, this exchange of blows only had one meaning, to make her more aware of how weak she was. "I just wanted you to understand that compared to the students in Lingxiao College, you are indeed the best. But today, you are still far from becoming a true powerhouse." Dugumabao retracted his hand. There seemed to be a glimmer of light in his demonic purple eyes. Chu Luyue laughed bitterly. She finally understood that Dugumabao's disdain for her every time he faced her was not an act. It was real. If she were him, she would disdain herself too. Immediately, her expression became serious and she bowed to Dugumabao seriously. "I will remember today's lesson." Dugumabao was willing to do this for her. She was very clear about this. "One day, I will definitely be able to exchange blows with you fair and square." Dugumabao's lips curled up slightly, revealing an extremely rare smile. "I'll be waiting." His smile was like a small flower that had suddenly bloomed on a frozen snowy mountain. He always had a cold expression on his face, and even Chu Luyue had barely seen him smile. Thus, she couldn't help but be dazed when she suddenly saw it. In the next moment, she finally could not help but take a few steps forward and pinch Dugumabao's face. Debeo, you are so cute." 3 seconds later, Dugumabao walked out with a dark expression. Bang! The door was closed. In the room, Chu Luiyue looked at the huge Xian formation in front of her and began to regret. Dabao, I was wrong. I won't do it again. Dugu Mabao said coldly. If you can't solve it, don't come out. After saying that, his figure flashed and disappeared. Chu Luiyue, who was left in the room, began to study the chessboard with a sorrowful expression. 15 minutes later. Dugu Mabao, this is not a level 9 Xian formation. Come back. However, Dugu Mabao had already disappeared without a trace. Chu Luiyue could only continue to study the chessboard obediently. Sigh. She suddenly wanted to go back to the Beast Park. At least she would not be bullied so ruthlessly there. Chu Luiyue sat in the room for a few hours. When it was close to evening, her eyes finally lit up. Here. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1286. She raised her hand, and her slender and fair fingers danced lightly. A few rays of light flew out, and intertwined in midair to form a small Xian formation. Then, she carefully placed it on a certain spot on the large Xian formation in front of her. Soon, the surrounding rays of light surged over and merged with the small Xian formation. Chu Luiyue was delighted. This was a sign that the formation was about to be cracked. However, before her smile could be completely revealed, she saw the rays of light on the large Xian formation continue to surge, and quickly drowned her small Xian formation. Chu Luiyue sighed in disappointment. This method of cracking the Xian formation was correct, but unfortunately, her current strength was too weak to contend against such a Xian formation. When her small Xian formation was completely swallowed, a silver light flashed before her eyes, and the large Xian formation quietly dissipated. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief. Looks like Dabao doesn't want to use a Xian formation to make things difficult for me. I'll give you 3 months to completely crack this Xian formation. When the time comes, I'll review it. Dugu Mabao's voice suddenly rang in her ears. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat, and she looked outside the door. It was silent outside, as if no one had been here. She rubbed her brows. 3 months, she really didn't know where Dabao's confidence in her came from, but fortunately, she had basically memorized the Xian formation in her mind, and she could study it when she had time. She glanced at the sky, got up, and walked over to open the door. As she expected, the door that was sealed just now had quietly opened. Chu Luiyue thought for a while, walked out, and headed in the direction of Medicine Wind Valley. It was already evening. When Chu Luiyue arrived at Medicine Wind Valley, there weren't many people here. She saw Elder Meng Yi, who was still lying on the small broken wooden bed in the middle. He seemed to be sleeping with his head facing the sky. Occasionally, students would bring herbs over to settle accounts. After the previous incident, Chu Luiyue wouldn't really think that he was sleeping. The entire Medicine Wind Valley had always been under his control. Chu Luiyue didn't disturb him, and flew down to look for the herbs she needed. Chu Yu. Chu Luiyue had just stood there when he heard a surprised voice coming from the side. She looked back and laughed as well. Senior brother Zhong Sun, why are you here as well? Zhong Sun walked over and sized up Chu Luiyue a few times, his eyes filled with unconcealable curiosity. I should be the one asking you that. You haven't come out for a month. I haven't seen you for a while. Is it because senior brother Rongxiu has been giving you special guidance? Chu Luiyue's eyes flashed, then he smiled and said, yes. It seemed like these people didn't know that Rongxiu wasn't in the academy. No wonder. Zhong Sun looked at Chu Luiyue with admiration and envy. Senior brother Rongxiu is ranked second on the Ascension rankings. With his guidance, I'll surely benefit greatly, right? Of course, Chu Yu, you're very outstanding as well. You've ascended the Ascension rankings after coming to the Academy for 2 months. It's a pity that this month's assessment just ended and you didn't come. Otherwise, your ranking would definitely continue to rise, right? Only then did Chu Luiyue remember that she had been in the Beast Park for a month and happened to miss the assessment at the beginning of this month. She smiled and shook her head. Senior brother Zhong Sun, you flatter me. She thought for a moment and said, for example, that Lin Qifei ascended the Ascension rankings earlier than me. Zhong Sun clicked his tongue. That's true. At the beginning of this month's assessment, he's already ranked 89th on the Ascension rankings. Chu Luiyue was a little surprised. Oh. So fast. Actually, this isn't his true strength yet. Zhong Sun looked around and lowered his voice. You haven't come out for a while, so it's normal that you don't know about this. Some time ago, during the Xian Masters joint class, Lin Qifei defeated Jiang Jiwan on the spot. Chu Luiyue's eyes flickered slightly. Jiang Jiwan isn't weak. To be able to defeat her, one can imagine how strong Lin Qifei is. Although that wasn't a real duel and was just a competition on the chessboard, it was enough to prove how outstanding Lin Qifei is. As Zhong Sun spoke, he was rather emotional. I heard that he's only in his early 20s and looks gentle and delicate. I didn't expect him to hide his strength so well. The Xian Masters all said that if he used his full strength, his ranking would be at least 30 places higher than his current ranking. But for some reason, he doesn't seem to be very interested in this. On the day of the assessment at the beginning of the month, he seemed to be just casually dealing with it. Not only Zhong Sun, but many people also didn't know what Lin Qifei was thinking. In the academy, everyone wanted to ascend the Ascension rankings. The higher the ranking, the more glory they would receive. Many people couldn't ascend the rankings even once until they left the academy, and it was a pity. However, this Lin Qifei didn't care much about this. However, this doesn't affect everyone's high opinion of him. Many people also said that he would be the most outstanding dark horse in the next few years. At this point, Zhong Sun couldn't help but glance at Chu Luiyue. Of course, I'm talking about the Xian Masters. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but laugh when she saw how careful he was. Senior brother Zhong Sun, if you have anything to say, just say it. Don't worry about what I think. You really don't mind? Zhong Sun asked in surprise. A month or two ago, especially after Chu Yu secretly left the academy and returned safely after helping senior brother Rong Xiu, most people in the academy had already tacitly agreed that he was the most outstanding among the new students. But now, the direction of the wind had already changed. More people were leaning towards Lin Qifei. No cultivator would really be indifferent in the face of such a change, right? I really don't mind. Chu Luiyue held back her laughter and said seriously. She knew Lin Qifei's talent and strength the best. Otherwise, she wouldn't have chosen to join forces with him back then. But now, why did it seem like everyone was secretly comparing the two of them? Recalling the scene of her fight with De Mobao, Chu Luiyue couldn't help but sigh in her heart. With such a top expert by her side, how could she have the mood to care if Lin Qifei was stronger than her? Seeing that Chu Luiyue really didn't seem to mind, Zhong Sun was relieved. That's good, that's good. In any case, you're now cultivating with Elder Wan Zhang and senior brother Rong Xiu. Your future will definitely be limitless. Chu Luiyue thought for a moment and asked. You just said. Jiang Jiwan lost to Lin Qifei. What's going on? I remember that her strength is not bad. She's not bad, but she seemed to be in a bad state that day. Zhong Sun said hesitantly. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said those words. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. What words? Zhong Sun shook his head. It's just that she's still brooding over the position of Yuntian Tower's princess consort. In short, it's not anything good. After the competition, she asked for leave and returned to the immortal water tomb. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1287. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. Based on her understanding, most of the people in the academy had a good attitude towards Jiang Jiwon. On one hand, she came from a good family, and on the other hand, she was talented and strong. On the other hand, she was born beautiful and had always been gentle, lively, and elegant in front of others, so it was easy for people to like her. But now, from Zhong Sun's tone, it seemed that he looked down on Jiang Jiwon. It seemed that Jiang Jiwon really had a serious slip of the tongue that day. As if he saw Chu Luiyue's doubts, Zhong Sun simply repeated what happened that day. It's like this. Previously, everyone thought that she was the pitiful and innocent one who was being bullied, but after Lin Qifei stood up that day, everyone understood that the truth was not as she had preached. She was clearly inferior to others, but she still wanted to slander them. People who can do such things are not good people. Zhong Sun pursed his lips, and a trace of annoyance flashed across his face. There were many students present that day, and many of them heard what she said. After that, her series of actions were really not presentable. I really didn't expect her to be like this. Now that I think about it, Senior Rongxiu has been keeping a respectful distance from her from the start. He must have seen through her a long time ago, right? Chu Luiyue did not say anything. Actually, Jiang Jiwon's control of her emotions had always been good, but when a person pretended for a long time, there would be a time when they would be exposed. No one knew what had happened to provoke her to this extent. From then on, her image in the hearts of the people in the academy had completely collapsed. Coupled with the fact that she had lost to Lin Qifei, it was like an army collapsing. In Lingxiao College, you could be aloof, you could be arrogant, you could be arrogant. But the premise was that you had to be strong enough. Without strength as a cornerstone, you would not be able to stand firm. I think she won't be coming back anytime soon. Chu Luiyue fell into deep thought. Obviously, Jiang Ziyuan was still brooding over the fact that Lin Mingya had become the princess. Otherwise, she would not have said those words on impulse until now. If she returned to the immortal water mausoleum. Chu Yu. What are you thinking? Seeing that Chu Luiyue did not react for a long time, Zhong Sun reached out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes. Chu Luiyue came back to his senses and smiled. It's nothing. I just feel that these things. Forget it. Anyway, this has nothing to do with us. We'll just be spectators. Senior Marshal Brother Zhong Sun, if there's nothing else, I'll go pick some herbs first. Zhong Sun hurriedly said, You go. I've basically finished harvesting, so I won't delay you any further. After he finished speaking, he turned around and took 2 more stalks of medicinal herbs and quickly left. Chu Luiyue also retracted his gaze and began to look for the herbs he needed. The sky gradually darkened, and almost all the people in the Medicine Wind Valley had left. Chu Luiyue walked among the knee-high amethyst bone flowers and carefully selected them. Kid, you're not done yet. Elder Mengyi finally opened one of his eyes and asked lazily. Chu Luiyue was startled. She straightened her body and turned around. Only then did she realize that she was the only student left. She scratched her head in embarrassment. Elder, I really cupped my fists. This student was negligent and did not pay attention to the time. This student will pack up and leave now. Elder Mengyi suddenly sat up, picked up his palm leaf fan and scratched his bare feet. He laughed, hee, kid, do you know how many medicinal herbs you've taken away since you came in? This old man remembers that you've only been in the academy for 3 months. If you can't pay the points later, this old man won't let you leave so easily. So he was worried about this. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Thank you for your concern, elder. However, my master said that I can take any medicinal herbs in the Medicine Wind Valley during this period of time and put them under his name." Oh. This time, Elder Mengyi finally opened both of his eyes. He stared at Chu Luiyue from head to toe for a while and asked suspiciously, "That old man really said that?" "Yes. How would this student dare to lie about this kind of thing? This old man, could it be that he has changed his personality?" Elder Mengyi couldn't help but murmur in a low voice. That Wanzheng was old-fashioned and strict. How could he do such a thing? But Chu Yu, as a freshman, did not seem to dare to lie about this kind of thing. After all, whether it was true or not, he would know by asking Wanzheng. Then this must be true. Elder Mengyi thought for a while and stroked his beard. In that case, this old man is relieved. If you want anything else, just take it as soon as possible. After he said that, Chu Luiyue was a little embarrassed to continue. She hurriedly said, "This student has taken enough today. Moreover, it's already very late. I won't disturb you anymore." With that, she walked over and asked Elder Mengyi to count. Elder Mengyi picked up his green jade token and wrote a number on it. "Enough. This old man knows very well what you took. There's no need to count anymore. This account. This old man will send it to him tomorrow, elder." Chu Luiyue suddenly interrupted him. "This student has a presumptuous request. I hope you can agree to it." Elder Mengyi lifted his eyelids and looked at her. "What's the matter?" Chu Luiyue coughed. Under Elder Mengyi's gaze, which seemed to see through everything, her face turned red and she felt a little embarrassed. This bill, can you wait for a month before sending it to my master? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1288. Elder Mengyi's gaze instantly became subtle. He waved the green jade token in his hand and revealed a meaningful smile. "You mean, you'll come again tomorrow?" Chu Luiyue nodded shyly, which was rare for her. "The day after tomorrow." Chu Luiyue nodded with an even redder face. "You can't be coming for an entire month, right?" Elder Mengyi's mouth twitched. No. How can a student do such a thing?" Chu Luiyue hurriedly denied. She put her palms together and explained awkwardly and embarrassedly. "This. You also know that I just broke through to the 9th grade celestial physician some time ago. It's the time when I consume the most medicinal herbs." Elder Mengyi looked at her with a strange gaze. No one else could come up with such a reason. There were so many 9th grade celestial physician students in the academy, but he had never seen any of them do this. "Elder, you won't disagree, right?" Chu Luiyue asked carefully. Elder Mengyi suddenly laughed. "How can that be? Since Wanzheng made such a promise to you, it proves that he thinks highly of you. All these years, he has only accepted you as his disciple. He can't wait to dote on you. What's wrong with spending some points on you?" He waved his hand. "Don't worry. This old man promises to give this list to him a month later." Chu Luiyue also laughed. "Thank you, elder." Elder Mengyi lay down again. "Go." Chu Luiyue bowed and left. The Medicine Wind Valley regained its silence. A light breeze blew, and the rich fragrance of medicinal herbs filled the air. Elder Mengyi lay on the small wooden bed with his legs crossed. He patted the cattail leaf fan in his hand and muttered in a low voice. Wanzheng, that old fellow. This time, he's going to bleed heavily." He turned his head and looked in a certain direction of the Medicine Wind Valley. In the night, a huge Xian formation flickered with an extremely faint glow, enveloping everything. It also isolated that place. Elder Mang Ye's gaze deepened. He was silent for a while before he chuckled. It's been a long time since I've seen such a troublesome child. She's quite similar to you. I've always kept your herb garden for you. Why didn't that wretched girl come back to take a look? In the end, he shook his head and closed his eyes again. There was a hint of longing and helplessness in his eyes. How worrisome. It was a peaceful night. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day. Early in the morning, Chu Luiyue simply tidied up and went straight to Elder Wanzhang's residence. When she arrived, she realized that Elder Wanzhang was already waiting for her. After chatting for a while, the master and disciple went straight to the point. Elder Wanzhang first exchanged a few moves with Chu Luiyue. After confirming that she was indeed stronger than she looked, he felt both proud and curious. But in the end, he suppressed the impulse in his heart and did not ask about Chu Luiyue's background. Now you can already refine pills of the 9th grade. According to your talent and comprehension, it shouldn't be long before you can reach the next level and refine pills of the peak of the 9th grade. Elder Wanzhang said as he took out a book and handed it over. Chu Luiyue took it with both hands and saw a few big words written on it, Physician's Medicine Manual. Chu Luiyue looked up in surprise. Master, this is, above the 9th grade celestial physician is the physician. Elder Wanzhang put one hand behind his back and said seriously. Among all the medical books that can be borrowed in the academy, the highest grade prescription is the peak of 9th grade. Above that were the private stashes of the various elders. This book was passed down to me by my master. Now, it's time to pass it down to you. The heritage of a celestial physician was extremely private, and the higher one's rank was, the more so it became. Under normal circumstances, it was already difficult for a top-notch celestial physician to groom a disciple who was on par with him. Just this disciple alone required a great deal of effort. The fact that Elder Wanzhang had passed this book to her was proof of how much he valued Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue felt a warmth in her heart. She gripped the medical book tightly and said solemnly, "Thank you for your teachings, Master. Your disciple will cultivate diligently in the future and not let you down." Elder Wanzhang sighed and patted her shoulder. "You've always been a sensible girl, so I'm not worried at all. Take this medical book back and study it carefully. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask." Chu Luiyue nodded vigorously. Time always passed swiftly when one was focused on cultivating. In the blink of an eye, it was afternoon, and Chu Luiyue was about to leave. She looked at the sky and suddenly remembered that Dumpling was still at Thousand Wine Mountain. She wondered how she was doing. "Master, is Thousand Wine Mountain open?" Elder Wanzhang paused and calculated the time. "It should be open soon. It was supposed to open 2 days ago, but for safety reasons, Bo Yan and the rest delayed it for a few days. If I remember correctly, it will open the day after tomorrow." As he spoke, he looked at Chu Luiyue cautiously. "Why, what do you want to do this time?" He clearly remembered that out of the 3 times that Chu Luiyue was punished, 2 of them were related to Thousand Wine Mountain. This caused him to be traumatized at the mention of Thousand Wine Mountain. Chu Luiyue hurriedly said, "Nothing. Nothing, I was just asking casually." "I'm telling you, you're not allowed to go there casually." Elder Wanzhang warned her. "Previously, Bo Yan didn't punish you severely because you wanted to refine the artifact's soul and Shang Yusin tried his best to protect you. If you do it again, even I won't help you anymore." Chu Luiyue sighed in her heart. It seemed that she no longer had any credibility with the elders. "Yes. Your disciple will remember it." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1289. In the following period of time, Chu Luiyue stayed obediently in Nineheng Mountain. For some reason, Dabeo did not appear again. Chu Luiyue did not know where he had gone, nor did she know how to find him. Thus, she decided to stay in her own place and cultivate in peace. Sometimes, she would study the Xian formation left behind by Dabeo, and sometimes she would flip through the doctor's medicine manual that Elder Wanjing had given her. Chu Luiyue originally thought that these two things would consume a lot of brain power and energy. After all, with her current strength, it would be very difficult for her to comprehend these things. But soon, she realized that the truth was completely different from what she had expected. When she was learning these things, she did not feel that it was too difficult. In fact, occasionally, she would even feel a subtle sense of familiarity. It was as if she knew how to do it all along. Chu Luiyue hid these thoughts extremely well and cultivated quietly as usual. The only thing she was worried about was Dumpling. A month had passed, but Dumpling had yet to come out. She did not know how it was doing during this period of time. According to the three-eyed eagle, such a long time should be enough for Dumpling to completely activate the power of its bloodline. What made her even more uneasy was that the opening of Thousand Wine Mountain had been delayed again and again. Many students in the academy were puzzled by this, but most of them did not delve into it. After all, to them, Thousand Wine Mountain was just a place where they could occasionally relax and have fun. Even if it was closed for a month, or even 3 to 5 months, it would not affect them much. However, Chu Luiyue sensed that something was amiss. She had tried to inquire about Thousand Wine Mountain several times, but it was to no avail. In the end, because she was afraid of arousing suspicion, she could only temporarily quiet down and wait silently. Right now, no news should be the best news. Before Chu Luiyue could hear the news of Thousand Wine Mountain opening, another person arrived first. Shang Yusin. The moment Chu Luiyue saw that it was him, she understood why he was here. Greetings, Elder. Chu Luiyue stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Shang Yusin glanced at the barrier of Nineheng Mountain behind her and could not help but say, Rongxiu really thinks highly of you. Not only did he drag you to Thousand Wine Mountain, but he even let you stay here. He shrugged. You have to know that even we don't have the qualifications. Chu Luiyue smiled and asked, You're here for that thing? Shang Yusin. I didn't expect you to be even more straightforward. Let's get to the point. You've helped me so much before. If I still beat around the bush with you now, wouldn't that be too much? Shang Yusin enjoyed Chu Luiyue's words. Good. Then let's not waste any more time. Let's go. Chu Luiyue paused. Where? Shang Yusin looked at her with a strange expression. Of course we're going to my territory. You can't be thinking of showing it to me right here, right? Chu Luiyue thought about it and agreed. After all, it was a rare treasure, and other than the elders, the students in the academy did not know about it. If Shang Yusin wanted to study it, he naturally had to choose a safe and hidden place. It was best to go to his place. Chu Luiyue nodded. Elder is wise. Shang Yusin stayed with the artificers. This was the first time Chu Luiyue had come here, so she was somewhat curious. Unlike the other 3 regions, which were bustling with activity, this place was deserted. If it weren't for the fact that Chu Luiyue could sense the few strong and hidden auras in the mountains, she would have really thought that there was no one here. However, after entering, Chu Luiyue noticed even more differences. The innermost mountains were all barren, and many of them were already charred black. It seemed that they had triggered too much Tianlei to become like this. In the canyon between the mountains, all kinds of artificing materials that were rarely seen in the outside world could be seen everywhere, as if they were free. There were also some failed yuan tools that were piled up into small mountains. In fact, not all of them were incomplete. Some of them did not meet the standards that the artificers wanted, so they were casually thrown away. Chu Luiyue was sure that if she took out the few at the edge, people would definitely swarm to her if she took them out. However, it was clear that they did not intend to do so. Chu Luiyue looked around and could not help but sigh in her heart. These artificers' elders were really carefree and rich. Some of those yuan tools should still be usable, right? Wouldn't it be a pity to throw them away just like that? After walking for a while, Chu Luiyue finally could not help but ask. Shang Yusin followed her gaze and shook his head indifferently. What's the point of taking those scrap metals? It's fine to throw them away. It'll be embarrassing if they get out. Oh. Chu Luiyue responded silently. She really did not understand the world of artificers. Here, my residence is in front. Shang Yusin pointed forward. When I return to the academy, I'll stay there. Chu Luiyue took a look and found that it was an inconspicuous mountain. However, Shang Yusin's words made her feel a little surprised. You. Haven't you always been in the academy? Shang Yusin nodded. Yes. Usually, I'll only stay here for about 2 months a year. This year, the situation is a little special. I just happened to be here for a breakthrough, so I stayed until now. Chu Luiyue's eyes widened slightly. As far as she knew, most of the elders in the academy lived in the academy all year round. She had never seen someone like Shang Yusin, who only stayed for 2 months a year. As if seeing her doubts, Shang Yusin laughed. Why are you so surprised? I'm not an official elder of the academy, so I can't stay here for a long time. Chu Luiyue was really shocked this time. You're not an official elder. That's right. Shang Yusin flew forward and landed directly. Chu Luiyue followed closely behind. I'm a member of the Shang family of the Illusory Sky Manor. It's already extremely rare for me to be able to bear the title of elder in the academy. If it was someone from another first-rate family, they wouldn't even be able to do this. This short sentence contained too much information. Chu Luiyue's mind spun quickly and she quickly understood. The Illusory Sky Manor was the same as the Yuntian Tower, a first-rate family in the Divine Ruins world. A disciple with such a background could study in Lingxiao College, but he could not become an elder here. Since the day Lingxiao College was established, there has been this rule. It's still the same today. It's also because of this that the academy can always maintain a neutral position in the Divine Ruins world and maintain a relatively balanced relationship with the major families and sections. Chu Luiyue nodded thoughtfully. Then, for you to be able to become an elder, you must have something extraordinary, right? Shang Yusin laughed. You're wrong about that. The reason why I can become half an elder of the academy is because I once saved the dean's precious disciple. Chu Luiyue's heart suddenly jumped. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1290. It's a long story, and I don't think you'd like to hear it. Shang Yusin didn't seem to have any intention of continuing. Chu Luiyue's lips moved and said, actually, after coming to the academy, I've heard a lot of rumors about that person. Shang Yusin glanced at her with some surprise, then immediately smiled in understanding. That's true. The Azure Cloud role has always been there, but her name has been erased. It's inevitable that there will be some news below. Unlike the other elders who were somewhat secretive, Shang Yusin's attitude seemed to be much more relaxed when he mentioned this. Perhaps it was because he wasn't an official elder of the academy. Chu Luiyue thought to herself. Actually, speaking of which, the two of you are very similar in many ways. Shang Yusin sized up Chu Luiyue. Back then, when she first came to the academy, she was also sent to Pingmin Mountain on the second day. After she came out, she kept making mistakes, but the dean protected her, and the elders also doted on her. Therefore, they turned a blind eye and couldn't bear to punish her severely. He let out a sigh of regret. Unfortunately, later, his voice stopped abruptly. Chu Luiyue had mixed feelings when she heard this. In fact, after coming to the academy, she vaguely sensed that the elders were very tolerant of her back then, and even indulged her. Otherwise, how could they let a student like her open the academy's barrier at will? In the end, they were biased. Unfortunately, she didn't remember any of this. She didn't even have any impression of Shang Yusin saving her. Forget it. These old things are in the past. Shang Yusin quickly adjusted and looked at Chu Luiyue expectantly. That Scarlet Heaven sword, Chu Luiyue lightly nodded, and a thought popped up in her mind as she summoned Qi Xiao's sword. She handed the sword over. Elder, please. Shang Yusin's breathing stagnated, and his eyes seemed to be glued to Scarlet Heaven's sword. Excitement, eagerness, emotion, that was the look of waiting for so many years. He took a deep breath and stretched out his hand to receive the sword. But halfway through, he hurriedly wiped his hand on his clothes, and then carefully and sincerely received the sword. Although Chu Luiyue knew that he liked Scarlet Heaven's sword, he didn't expect him to be so serious about it. This had already become his obsession. Shang Yusin held the scabbard in one hand and the hilt in the other, holding his breath in concentration. After he calmed down a little, he began to slowly pull out Scarlet Heaven's sword. A gleam of snow, cold and sharp. Just by looking at it, he felt as if he was going to be cut by that terrifying sword Qi. Shang Yusin's face was flushed with excitement, and his eyes were shining. The venerable artifact, it really lives up to its name. His eyes swept across the top of the table. This included every pattern on the scabbard, the dragon head on the hilt, and the blade that was polished to perfection. Every part of it was done to perfection. Chu Luiyue watched from the side as he couldn't hide his excitement. For a moment, he felt rather emotional. Perhaps this was what a true refiner was like. He would always hold reverence and admiration for the top artifact. It was hard to imagine that a person who had always been arrogant and carefree would have such a sincere and serious moment. Clang! Shang Yusin finally pulled out the sword. This sword was more than 1,000 catties heavy, and even he had to struggle to pick it up. The powerful pressure almost made it hard for him to breathe. But Shang Yusin still insisted on picking it up. Only his hands were trembling badly. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes. Strange, this sword wasn't heavy when she held it in her hand. Why did it become like this in Shang Yusin's hand? Even when she and Jean Lei fought for this thing in the beginning, it hadn't recognized its owner yet, and its weight didn't seem to be so exaggerated. She thought for a moment and asked her doubts. Shang Yusin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Silly. This Scarlet Heaven sword didn't have a soul before, so of course, it was just ordinary. That's why so many people fought for it. Now that you have refined its soul and become its owner, it will naturally be 10 times or 100 times heavier than before. With that, he finally couldn't hold on any longer and put down the Scarlet Heaven sword. The tip of the sword stabbed into the ground, and a huge crack instantly appeared. He gasped for breath and said, "Do you think everyone is as lucky as you?" Chu Luiyue suddenly realized, so that's how it is. Thank you for your guidance, Elder. Shang Yusin raised a finger and pointed at her. Sigh, this world is really unfair. He had been longing for this Scarlet Heaven sword for so many years, but in the end, it was all for naught. And Chuyu. He didn't know anything about it, but he had inexplicably become the owner of the Scarlet Heaven sword. Comparing oneself to others would only make one angry. This was exactly what they meant. Meeting Chu Liuyue's clear and clean eyes, he couldn't say a word again. Forget it, what's the point of saying all this now? Here, I'll return it to you. Shang Yusin sent the Scarlet Heaven sword towards Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue was a little surprised. You're not going to take a closer look? Didn't you say that you wanted to observe and study it? You seem to be looking at it a little too quickly. Shang Yusin couldn't help but laugh again. I want to see its structure. What do you think I'm looking at? Even if I look at it for a day or a month, it won't be mine anymore. Hurry up. This thing is too heavy, he urged. Chu Luiyue reached out and took the Scarlet Heaven sword back. She raised it and took a look. You just said that you want to see its structure. Is this very important? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1291. Of course it's important. At the mention of this, Shang Yusin immediately perked up and began to explain to Chu Luiyue. Refining is refining materials into treasures. Whether or not you can refine an outstanding yuan instrument depends on the materials and the structure. These two factors determine the amount of tianlei tempering it can withstand. You must know that the more tianlei is triggered, the stronger the yuan instrument will be, and naturally, the more useful it will be. Look at this Scarlet Cloud sword. It's top-notch in all aspects. Only in this way can you refine a venerable artifact. He sighed. Back then, that person exhausted his blood, sweat, and energy to refine this Scarlet Cloud sword. It's a pity that it was buried deep in the dark feathers abyss for thousands of years and never saw the light of day. Now that it's in your hands, you can inherit it. If that person's spirit is in heaven, he should be quite pleased, right? The higher the level of the yuan instrument, the harder it is to comprehend the mysteries hidden in it. This Scarlet Cloud sword is the same. I only stared at it for a while just now, and I already felt a little uncomfortable. But whether I can comprehend it or not is still unknown. Shang Yusin said very honestly. It's a pity that you're not a blacksmith. If you are, and you have such a treasure in your hands, it'll be much more convenient for you than others. If you're talented enough, you might have the chance to refine a powerful divine artifact in the future. There was no lack of regret in his words. Chu Luiyue listened quietly, but his heart skipped a beat. A blacksmith, strictly speaking, she should be considered half a blacksmith, right? The first thing a true weapon refiner needed to do was to be able to trigger heavenly lightning. A cultivator could only be sure if they had the talent to become a blacksmith after breaking through the shackles and becoming a god-level powerhouse. As for whether she had the potential to become a blacksmith, she would only know after she broke through to god-level powerhouse. Shang Yusin casually found a place to sit cross-legged. I'll meditate for a while first. You can look around. By the way, there are many things piled up at the back of the mountain. If there's anything you like, just take it. After saying that, he closed his eyes as if he was really going to cultivate. Chu Luiyue hesitated for a moment and could not help but ask. Elder. There's something I want to ask you. Shang Yusin's eyes were still closed, calm and composed. Speak. Chu Luiyue paused. I caused so much trouble on Thousand Wine Mountain the other day. I wonder if it's fixed now. Shang Yusin snorted and looked at her. You're still concerned about this? Don't worry. The damage you caused that day was not small, but during this period of time, we have been repairing it overnight. Basically, it is as good as new. Then why hasn't it been opened yet? Chu Luiyue quickly added, I thought it was because I caused too much of a problem. I've been feeling very uneasy. Shang Yusin did not suspect anything and waved his hand. Don't worry, the 10,000 Wine Mountain is fine. As for why it hasn't been opened recently, Bo Yan has his own considerations, so you don't have to worry. After asking for a long time, Chu Luiyue had no choice but to give up. Seeing that Shang Yusin had already begun to cultivate, Chu Luiyue thought for a moment and decided to stroll around. Since it was rare for her to come here, she naturally had to take a good look. Moreover, her name was also on the weapon refining ranking, which meant that she had some talent in this area back then. Looking around, she might be able to recall something. The surroundings were silent. Moreover, there was not much to see on the mountain. Probably because refining would cause Tianlei to stir, there was not even a place to stay on the mountain. Instead, there were traces of refining everywhere. This was the territory of Shang Yusin, who only stayed in the academy for 2 months a year. If it were anyone else, half of the mountain would have been split open. Unknowingly, Chu Luiyue walked to the back of the mountain. Her eyes lit up. There were indeed many good things piled up here. Weapon refiners would collect all kinds of precious materials to prepare for refining, but they might not really be used. Just like the things piled up here. Any one of them should be able to be exchanged for a lot of money. It had to be said that weapon refiners were even prouder than Celestial Physician. They were not even worried that their things would be stolen. Chu Luiyue walked over to take a look and picked a few interesting things. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed. On a small mountain of all kinds of jade, there seemed to be a palm-sized jade pendant sandwiched in the middle. Under the sunlight, it shone faintly. This jade pendant was completely white, clear and lustrous. Probably because it had been there for some time, there were already some traces of time on it. Placed in this pile of jade, it really did not stand out. However, Chu Luiyue's eyes were fixed on the jade pendant, her heart beating violently. She reached out and carefully took off the jade pendant, placing it in the palm of her hand to examine it carefully. It was a round jade pendant. At the bottom corner, there was a fingernail-sized defect, as if it was accidentally broken. Looking at it carefully, there were a few thin cracks at the edge of the defect. It was as if the jade pendant would completely shatter with a light touch. However, these were not the main points of Chu Luiyue's attention. What she cared about was the pattern on it. In the middle of the jade pendant, there was a pattern of a sword cutting off a dragon's head. She could not be more familiar with this pattern. Chu Luiyue's hand trembled slightly as she turned the jade pendant over. On the back, there were 2 small engraved words that were extremely worn out. However, after wiping off the dust, the words were still clear and legible. Heavenly Order. This was something from the Tianling dynasty. At this moment, Chu Luiyue was extremely sure. This pattern, this engraved words, all of them showed its origin. Most importantly, this handwriting, if she was not mistaken, it was Taizu's handwriting. Chu Luiyue suppressed her violently beating heart and said softly, "Taizu." Sensing that her mood seemed to be a little off, Taizu's voice carried a trace of worry. What's wrong?" Chu Luiyue tried to make her voice sound as calm as possible. "There's something that I want you to personally identify. I wonder if it's convenient for you to come out." Taizu only hesitated for a moment before coming out of Scarlet Heaven Sword. Although it was somewhat inappropriate for him to appear here, and he might even be noticed by the people of Lingxiao College, he was more concerned about Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue handed over the jade pendant. "Taizu, please take a look. Is this yours?" Taizu stepped forward and took a closer look. With just one look, his expression abruptly changed. Chu Luiyue immediately confirmed in her heart that this was Taizu's item. Sure enough, Taizu immediately said, This is indeed my jade pendant. Why would it appear here?" Chu Luiyue pointed at the gap above. "Taizu, there are bloodstains in these cracks. Is this yours?" Mobile user, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1292. The blood had seeped into the cracks. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see it. Moreover, the color was dark and dry, as if a long time had passed. Taizu frowned and stared at the jade pendant for a long time before slowly reaching out his hand. He felt a familiar throbbing. He spoke with difficulty. "That's right. This is my blood. And there should be a part of my soul sealed inside." Chu Luiyue looked up in shock. "Really?" Taizu's translucent hand gently brushed past the broken jade pendant. "Yes. I used to carry this jade pendant with me. Later. I don't remember what happened after that." His voice was exceptionally low and slow, as if it was wrapped in 1,000 years of wind and frost. It carried the smell of rust and blood, as well as the long-lost smell of time and space. "Before seeing this jade pendant today, I had never thought of its existence. And now, I don't remember how I lost it." Chu Luiyue pondered for a moment and guessed. "Taizu, perhaps you deliberately threw away this jade pendant. Otherwise, why would a part of his soul be sealed inside?" Taizu didn't speak for a long time, his eyes bottomless. In fact, in his heart, he also agreed with Chu Luiyue's theory. Previously, when Chu Luiyue refined the Scarlet Heaven Sword Soul, he was shocked to discover that he wasn't a remnant consciousness, but a soul. During this period of time, he had been thinking about this question, but he couldn't remember what happened back then. It wasn't until he saw this jade pendant that he was even more certain of his previous suspicions. He was indeed still alive. Chu Luiyue looked at Taizu with a complicated gaze. "Taizu, do you really not remember at all? Perhaps, fusing the soul in this jade pendant with you will be of some use." Taizu pondered for a moment before slowly nodding. "I'll try my best." His two souls had been separated for 1,000 years. It wouldn't be so easy to fuse them again. Chu Luiyue clenched the jade pendant in his hand. "Don't worry, I will do my best to help you." Taizu was still alive, and he had found other souls. As long as his soul was pieced together, he might be able to find an opportunity to help Taizu possess his body and help him be reborn. This thought made Chu Luiyue excited. "I'll ask the elder. He might know the origin of the jade pendant." Tracing back to the source, it would only be a matter of time before he could find out what had happened back then. Shang Yusen looked at the jade pendant in his hand and frowned as he recalled for a while. In the end, he shook his head. Teet. Tisate. Regarding this jade pendant, I really can't think of anything." Chu Luiyue took the jade pendant and lowered his eyes. In fact, she had already expected this result. The material of this jade pendant might be good for ordinary people, but in front of a refiner like Shang Yusen, it was not very eye-catching. Otherwise, it would not have been thrown to the back of the mountain. He probably did not even take a second look at it, let alone anything else. "Thank you. I'll think of another way." Seeing Chu Luiyue being so persistent, Shang Yusen was curious. "Is this jade pendant very important to you?" Chu Luiyue held the jade pendant tightly and nodded seriously. "This is my ancestors." Shang Yusen understood. "No wonder. Since that's the case, I'll return this jade pendant to you from today onwards. You must take good care of it in the future. Maybe one day, you'll find some clues." Chu Luiyue nodded. "Thank you." She paused for a moment and said, "If there's nothing else," Shang Yusen knew what she was going to say and immediately agreed. "No one can be calm after finding such a thing. You should go back and have a good rest." Chu Luiyue held the jade pendant tightly and thanked him again before leaving. On the way back, Chu Luiyue still felt a little absent-minded. She had never thought that she would find the jade pendant that Taizu had lost just by going to Shang Yusen's place. More importantly, there was a strand of the great ancestor's soul inside. How could there be such a coincidence in the world? Perhaps this was the arrangement of the heavens. Chu Luiyue was shocked and relieved. There was also an indescribable joy in her heart. Taizu had treated her with great kindness. If she could help Taizu come back to life, it would be great. Taizu, do you know what preparations you need to make to fuse with a soul? Chu Luiyue asked nervously. After a moment, Taizu said in a deep voice, I'm afraid it's much more difficult than you think. Chu Luiyue was stunned. You mean, back then, I had already created half of the divine realm and could be considered a demigod. If you want to fuse with such a soul, you have to at least reach the level of a doctor. Otherwise, it would only be a futile effort. Is that so? Taizu's words calmed Chu Luiyue down. From the looks of it, this matter will take a long time to plan. But no matter what, it's already extremely lucky to be able to find your soul. Taizu replied and fell silent again. Chu Luiyue knew that he needed some time now, so she didn't disturb him anymore. Chu Yu. Chu Luiyue had just walked to Qingming Square and was about to turn in the direction of Mount Jiuheng when she suddenly heard a familiar voice. She turned her head and saw Luo Yanming. She smiled and greeted her. Luo Yanming walked over and said with emotion, I finally see you. Why didn't you show your face during this period of time? Chu Luiyue could only find an excuse to dodge it. I've been busy cultivating recently, so I haven't been out much. Why, do you need something from me? Ah, right, we agreed to spar before. Chu Luiyue patted her head lightly. Look at my memory, I forgot when I was busy. Luo Yanming chuckled. So you still remember. That's good. But I didn't call you here today because of this. Oh. The Academy released the mission list today. I was planning to take a look. Do you want to come with me? Mission list? Chu Luiyue was confused. What's that? Luo Yanming couldn't help but laugh. Looks like you haven't been out much recently. You don't even know about such a big thing. The Academy will release the mission list every quarter. The first to complete the mission will receive an extremely generous reward. Many people are eager to give it a try. Don't you want to take a look? Chu Luiyue was actually not interested in this matter. After all, she had enough things to do now. But seeing Luo Yanming's eager face, she asked, what mission is it? Luo Yanming's eyes lit up. I heard that it's related to the Heavenly Square Cauldron. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1293. Chu Luiyue was stunned for a moment, almost suspecting that she had heard wrongly. She slowly asked, what? Luo Yanming thought that she did not understand, so she explained, the Heavenly Square Cauldron. It's rumored to be one of the 10 great sacred artifacts of the Divine Ruins world. You don't know. Chu Luiyue's eyelids twitched. She really didn't seem to know. How did the Heavenly Square Cauldron suddenly become one of the 10 great sacred artifacts of the Divine Ruins world? That thing had been in her body for so long, but she had never found anything wrong with it. Oh, except for the fact that it was especially powerful and could store things. Chu Luiyue held her forehead and rubbed her temples. Tell me in detail what's going on. Luo Yanming said, I really can't explain this matter clearly with just a few words. If you really want to know, just look at the mission board and everything will be clear. Chu Luiyue closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her jade-like eyes had already returned to their usual calm and dark state. Where's the mission board? Luo Yanming brought Chu Luiyue to the side of the Donghuang Bell Tower. At this moment, there were already many people gathered here. Luo Yanming raised her hand, look. It's right up there. Chu Luiyue looked up. On the black wall, there were a few lines of words shining. At the top were the words, Mission Board. Below was the arrangement and explanation of the relevant content. This was originally the location of the martial artist ranking, but now it was on the mission board, so it didn't seem out of place. Chu Luiyue read it back and forth a few times before she finally figured it out. There was a place in the Divine Ruins world called the Northern Territory of the Great Desolate Land. The environment there was extremely harsh, and it was almost deserted. But recently, it had become an extremely lively place. Because the rumored Heavenly Square Cauldron was about to appear there. The Heavenly Square Cauldron had been lost 1,000 years ago, and there had been no news of it in the Divine Ruins world. Until recently, the news of the Heavenly Square Cauldron's reappearance had spread like wildfire. All the major clans and sects were eager to take it for themselves. Under normal circumstances, Lingxiao College rarely participated in such battles. However, the appearance of a holy object like the Heavenly Square Cauldron would greatly affect the surrounding energy of heaven and earth. Moreover, it was very likely that other artifacts would appear, which would be very beneficial. Therefore, after a discussion among the Academy elders, they decided to list it as the mission this time. Whoever could stay in the northern region of Untainted Land for a month or find a divine weapon related to the Heavenly Square Cauldron would complete the mission. All in all, it would be more accurate to call this mission an experience. The northern region of the Great Desolate Land. I heard that place is very dangerous. I don't even know if I can return safely from there, right? But that's the place where the Heavenly Square Cauldron is about to appear. You don't want to go, but there are others who do. That's right. Furthermore, it was stated that the elders would go together to ensure everyone's safety. As long as you feel that something is wrong, you can ask for help and leave as soon as possible. There won't be any danger. So what if it's dangerous? If he could see the Heavenly Square Cauldron with his own eyes, his death would be worth it. I came to the academy to become stronger. When can I become a real expert if I'm so timid? The many students gathered together were discussing animatedly. Chu Luiyue listened for a while. Most people were inclined to take the risk. After all, the name of the 10 great sacred artifacts in the Divine Ruins was too tempting. What do you think, Chu Yu? Are you going? Luo Yanming asked nervously and expectantly. Chu Luiyue thought for a while and said, I'll go back and think about it. Luo Yanming nodded. You can team up with this. Sure, Shusheng and I have already decided to go together. If you want to go, just let us know and we'll go together. Chu Luiyue took another look at the mission list before leaving. Jiuheng Mountain. In the room, Chu Luiyue rested his chin on one hand and frowned slightly. The Heavenly Square Cauldron. What's going on? This thing was obtained by accident when she subdued the three-eyed eagle. In the blink of an eye, it had become such a precious item. There was actually another Heavenly Square Cauldron in the so-called northern region of the Untainted Land. Are there 2 Heavenly Square Cauldrons in this world? Of course not. The three-eyed eagle's cold voice suddenly sounded. There's only one Heavenly Square Cauldron in the entire continent, and it's with you right now. But the one in the northern region of the Untainted Land, either someone made a wrong judgment or someone deliberately spread rumors. In short, it's all fake and can't be trusted. The three-eyed eagle's tone was very firm and certain. Chu Luiyue thought to herself after hearing this. After a long while, she slowly said, this should be a trap set up by someone. Why do you say so? The three-eyed eagle asked. If 1 or 2 people made a wrong judgment, it would be pardonable. But now that the news has spread throughout the entire Divine Ruins world, even the elders of Lingxiao College haven't noticed anything unusual. This is a bit strange. Chu Luiyue felt that the elders should still have the ability to judge. But now, even they were convinced and were even prepared to bring their students over. It was obvious that someone had used some method to make everyone believe that this news was true. The Heavenly Square Cauldron had not appeared for 1,000 years. Even if someone suspected that there was a problem, they could not produce any evidence. Unless the real heavenly square cauldron appeared. And at this moment, it was with her. Other than Lingshao College, this matter also involved many first-rate families and sections. Who was the person behind this? How could he have such a shocking move? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1294. Chu Luiyue felt that she had faintly sensed a huge conspiracy. A chill ran from the bottom of her feet to the top of her head, causing her to shudder. She poured herself a cup of tea to moisten her dry throat. How could she tell the elders about this? If she couldn't produce any evidence, no one would believe her. They might even think that there was something wrong with her brain. But if she just let them go, she felt very uneasy. Chu Luiyue's hand slowly rubbed against the cup, and she asked after a while, she asked, "How can you prove that the one in my body is the real heavenly square cauldron?" The legendary three-eyed eagle was silent for a moment before saying, "Do you think it's fake when it can suppress me for 1,000 years?" Chu Luiyue was speechless for a moment. Besides, don't forget. The great phoenix dragon skeleton was also suppressed in it, and now there are two Tian babies sealed in it. Any one of these was ironclad evidence. In the world, there were less than 5 people who could do this. Chu Luiyue sighed. You're right. I was thinking too much. The heavenly square cauldron is a supreme treasure, even more powerful than your red cloud sword. So now, no matter what, you can't leak this news. Otherwise, you will be surrounded by wolves. The legendary three-eyed eagle warned. I understand. Chu Luiyue drank the rest of the tea in one gulp. I'll think of another way. Tianling Dynasty. Imperial Palace, Zhaoyu Hall. It was already night time, and the bright moon hung high in the sky. Octagonal glass lamps were hung inside and outside the hall. The light was so bright that it elongated one's shadow. Sheng Guanyu stood on the steps in front of the door, looking at the moon and sighing. I wonder how you is doing over there. Counting the time, it had already been several months. Except for a few letters, there was no other news. After a long time, he was panicking. Your Majesty, Her Highness is now the Princess of the Yuntian Tower. Her status is noble. Moreover, with that person protecting him, you don't have to worry. Behind Sheng Guanyu, Cin Yi was wearing a green robe. His expression was calm, and his long and narrow eyes were indifferent. That's exactly why I'm so worried. Sheng Guanyu shook his head and sighed. I didn't expect Rongxiu's identity to be so shocking. I wonder how many people will criticize Er's identity. It had been a long time since he received the news, but every time he thought about it, Sheng Guanyu's heart would still ripple. She's alone there. What if she gets bullied? In the Tianling dynasty, was the new empress with a noble status and was above millions of people. But on the other side, this was not worth mentioning. He understood too well how important one's background was in that kind of place. If she were to suffer any grievances, there would be no one to back her up even though they were thousands of miles apart. Although Rongxiu could help her, he couldn't possibly watch over her all the time, right? The hearts of parents in the world were pitiful. Thinking of this, Sheng Guanyu could not help but turn around. Cin Yi, do you have any way to cross? It was always good to have one more person to help. Cin Yi pondered for a moment. Her Highness didn't give this order. Sheng Guanyu was a little helpless. The 13 Yu guards had always only listened to you, and he could not command them. But in the entire Tianling dynasty, he could only trust these people. Cin Yi continued. We'll be loyal to you and will definitely prioritize Her Highness's safety. Hearing this, Sheng Guanyu's heart calmed down a little. That's good, With that, he left with his hands behind his back. Cini sent him off for a long distance before returning to Zhao Yuhou. In the end, he bumped into Qi Han, who had returned from a long journey. "Big brother, there's a situation." Cini narrowed his eyes. "Speak." Qi Han's expression was solemn, and the scars on his face were even more murderous. "Someone went to the Empire of Yao Qin and seems to be secretly investigating Her Highness. The other party is extremely powerful, and we paid a huge price to deal with them. But, the other party probably won't give up just like that." Cini frowned. "Have you found out who it is?" Qi Han hesitated for a moment. "It seems to be someone from that side. Otherwise, he really couldn't think of anyone else who could be so powerful. But it seems that someone is helping us." Qi Han hesitated for a moment before lowering his voice and speaking. Cini didn't seem surprised by this. "It's his duty to protect Her Highness. Do what you did before, and do what you will in the future. Also, send more people to the Empire of Yao Qin. With that person's help, there shouldn't be any problems." "Yes." Qi Han was about to turn and leave when he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Big brother, are we really going to keep waiting here? Her Highness has been in the Divine Ruins world for so long, and I don't know what's going on." Cini shook his head. "We just have to do what Her Highness instructed us to do." Qi Han could only respond. With a few leaps, he quickly disappeared into the night. Cini thought for a moment before walking in another direction. Night. 100 Herbs Building sent off the last customer and was about to close the door when a man in a black cloak appeared in front of the door. The servant instinctively said, "We're closed today." "Sir, please come again tomorrow." The man in front of the door said calmly, "I'm here to see Yuling." In Xiling City, there weren't many people who dared to call 100 Herbs Building's manager Yuling by his name. The servant was shocked and hurriedly raised his head. However, the person was completely hidden in a cloak and even had a hood on his head. His figure and appearance couldn't be recognized at all. A trace of vigilance arose in the servant's heart. Please come up." Yuling, who was standing on the second floor, shouted down. The servant hurriedly put on a smile. "Please come up." The man's footsteps moved slightly. Before anyone could see how he moved, he had already passed the servant and went up the stairs. The manservant raised his head in shock. "You may leave first," Yuling instructed. The servant knew that he shouldn't stay any longer, so he hurriedly left. On the second floor, Yuling led him to a private room. After closing the doors and windows, the two men faced each other. Yuling sat down leisurely and smiled. "You haven't come to my place for a few years. Why are you suddenly interested today?" The man opposite him took off his hood. It was Cini, who had just left the palace. His expression was calm as he said concisely, "I'll join forces with you." A hint of surprise flashed across Yuling's eyes. "Join forces? You? With me?" Cini looked at him quietly. "Someone is investigating His Highness's identity. I need to borrow your men." Yuling naturally understood that His Highness was Chu Luyue. He asked without batting an eyelid. "My men aren't cheap." Cini suddenly smiled. "Isn't it only right for His Highness the Holy Sun's men to do this?" Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1295. Yuling's expression finally changed. "When did you find out?" Cini said calmly. "That's not important. What's important is that I already know. Now, let me ask you one last time. Are you going to lend this person to me or not?" The two of them stared at each other as the air froze. It was a silent confrontation. Finally, Yuling broke the silence. This matter is important, so of course I have to lend him. Just ask for as much as you want. A satisfied smile appeared on Xinyi's face. Thank you. The tense atmosphere between the two of them quietly dissipated. After finalizing some details, the cooperation between the two of them was officially completed. It only took a total of 15 minutes. Xinyi stood up. Thank you for your help. I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Wait. Yu Ling stopped him, still very curious. What else, do you know? Even Chu Luyue didn't know that he was the Holy Sun's man, but Xinyi, the leader of the 13 Yu, knew. This was too strange. Yu Ling was puzzled. Xinyi's gaze seemed to see through everything, so he couldn't help but suspect that Xinyi knew many secrets. Xinyi stopped in his tracks and turned his head slightly. More than you think. With that, he left. Yu Ling opened his mouth, but he realized that he had already left. Immortal Water Mausoleum. In the room, Jiang Jiwan looked at the letter in her hand in disbelief. She knew every word on it, but after connecting them together, she couldn't understand it at all. Annihilation, consecutive assassinations, no survivors, what does this mean? They clearly sent the most outstanding subordinates of the Jiang family, so how did they all die in a small empire Yaoqin? Not only did they not find out any information, but they also lost so many people. Because of her anger, her body trembled slightly. Then, she suddenly stood up and swept all the teacups and other things on the table to the ground. Crackle. Ziyuan, what are you doing? Jiang Hitian, who had just walked to the door, was caught off guard by this scene and immediately shouted to stop. Seeing the mess on the floor and the angry and resentful Jiang Jiwan, he first turned around and gave the servants a look. The servants tactfully lowered their eyes and left, carefully closing the door. Jiang Hitian strode over to him. What happened? Why are you so angry? As he spoke, he noticed the letter in Jiang Jiwan's hand. He immediately took it and opened it. It was fine if he didn't look, but when he did, his expression changed instantly. How could this be? Because of the shock, his voice became sharp. Jiang Jiwan's eyes were bloodshot. She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. I knew there was something fishy going on. That small empire Yaoqin, where even rank 9 warriors are rare, how can they be a match for our people? There must be someone guarding against us in the dark. Most likely, it was that B*TCH. Other than her, who else could it be? Previously, it didn't seem simple, but now it seemed like it was true. If it wasn't for her guilty conscience, why would she do this? Jiang Hitian read the letter over and over again, his brows tightly knitted together. Whether it's her or not, it doesn't matter. What's important is that this proves that she's not as weak as the rumors said. Moreover, from the content of this letter, it seems that there are 2 parties secretly protecting her. The people behind these 2 parties are worthy of consideration. Jiang Jiwan gritted her teeth and suddenly looked at him. Father, we were careless before and ended up like this. This time, let's send more people. Moreover, he had to choose a stronger one. I don't believe they can do this again. Go again. Jiang Hitian didn't agree with her suggestion. Ziyuan, our losses this time are already very serious. If we send more people and the same thing happens again, what should we do? You have to know that some of the people here are of high status. How should I explain this to the family? He was the patriarch and had a lot of power, but he had a lot of things to take care of and a lot of responsibilities to bear. The casualties this time could be covered up with a random excuse, but what if it happened again? Because this matter was extremely private, he had sent a group of people he trusted the most to handle it. After this battle, they had lost so many people at once. He was also very distressed. Father, what do you mean by this? Are we just going to give up and stop investigating? Jiang Ji-won couldn't believe it. We've suffered such a big loss, and you're just going to let it go. Father doesn't mean that. Ziyuan, you can't just look at what's in front of you. You have to consider the overall situation. Jiang Hetian advised earnestly. They're in the light while we're in the dark, and we were completely wiped out in the first time. This is enough to prove that this place is not to be trifled with. I think it's better to investigate first and find out the details of the other party. Jiang Ji-won sneered. Find out the details of the other party. Wasn't that what the first batch of people were supposed to do? What happened in the end? Jiang Hetian was speechless. Seeing Jiang Ji-won's firm attitude, he put away the letter and said in a deep voice, "You can't be willful about this matter. You have to listen to Father. Let's get through this period first. We'll talk about the rest later. Besides, you've been at home for a long time. It's time to go back to the academy, right?" Jiang Ji-won wanted to refute the first half of the sentence, but when she heard the second half, she was suddenly speechless. She turned her head and said with her usual arrogant and willful voice, "I don't want to go back." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 1296. What did you say? Jiang Hetian's face turned cold. No matter how angry you are, it's been a long time. Haven't you calmed down yet? I've asked you several times before, and you always said that you didn't want to go back. If you continue to be like this, are you not going to go back in the future? When he asked the last question, his voice had already become stern. Jiang Ji-won's heart trembled. Knowing that he was really angry, she couldn't help but feel a little afraid. But at the same time, the evil fire in her heart also emerged. I just don't want to go back. If you ask me again, I'll give the same answer. She knew that after going back, what awaited her would be endless ridicule and ridicule. Jiang Hetian took a deep breath. Ziyuan, don't be stubborn. I'll keep a close eye on things here in the future. You go back to the school first. Don't let Elder Danqing and the others wait for you. Jiang Ji-won didn't speak. Obviously, she was still resisting. Jiang Hetian's patience was gradually running out. He didn't understand. His precious daughter used to be considerate, intelligent, and generous. How did she become like this in the blink of an eye? Ziyuan, I'll ask you one last time. Have you thought it through? Are you really not going back? Jiang Hetian's tone was gloomy. Jiang Ji-won was still a little afraid in her heart. She softened her attitude and shed 2 lines of clear tears of grievance. Dad, it's not that I don't want to go back, but they've really gone too far. Then, Jiang Ji-won told Jiang Hetian what had happened in the school while crying. Of course, there was no lack of embellishment and distortion in the middle. In Jiang Hetian's ears, it was as if the whole world was against his daughter. He was distressed. He couldn't vent the anger that had accumulated just now. After a long silence, he said, Ziyuan, I know you've been wronged, but it wasn't easy for you to get into Lingxiao College. It's also a big part of your capital. If you leave Lingxiao College, what will they say about you? Have you thought about it? Jiang Ji-won's expression froze. The position of Yuntian Tower's princess consort has already fallen into the hands of others. Now you don't have much of an advantage. Don't you understand? Seeing that Jiang Ji-won finally began to waver, Jiang Hetian softened his tone. Father was wrong just now. I shouldn't have been so anxious with you. But I'm doing this for your own good. You know it best, don't you? Compared to everything you can get when you go back, what is being talked about in secret? The last sentence finally made Jiang Ji-won change her mind. She wiped her tears, but her eyes were still filled with anger. Father is right, your daughter is too short-sighted. It's best that you can think clearly. Jiang Hetian finally breathed a sigh of relief. Also, if you go back now, you can still make it to the Great Desolate North. The northern region of the Great Desolate Land. Not bad. Father has been busy dealing with the matters in the mansion for the past 2 days, so I didn't have time to tell you. Then, Jiang Hetian explained the relevant information to Jiang Jiwan in detail. It's a pity that our mausoleum of immortal water is not a first-class family, so we don't have the right to go. But as long as you go back to Lingshao College, you can go with the elders. Jiang Hetian's eyes seemed to sparkle with excitement. Ziyuan, that's one of the 10 great sacred artifacts. As long as they could get some benefits from it, it would be worth it. Jiang Jiwan was also a little restless. After hesitating for a moment, she finally nodded as if she had made up her mind. I'll go back now. Lingshao College. Chu Luiyue watched as the last small Xian formation was slowly swallowed by the light of the larger Xian formation. A satisfied smile appeared on her face. 10 days had passed, and she had already deciphered half of the Xian formation. And the further she went, the smoother her progress became. It shouldn't be long before she could completely decipher it. Although deciphering a Xian formation didn't mean that she could cast a Xian formation of the same level, it was still a good start. This proved that the cultivator had the corresponding potential. Just like now, Chu Luiyue was a level 9 Xian master. After deciphering this Xian formation, she was closer to breaking through to the next level. She closed her eyes and carefully recalled the scene just now in her mind. After confirming that every step was correct, she got up and walked outside. When she reached the door, she habitually glanced to the side. Rong Xiao hadn't returned yet. A trace of doubt flashed through her eyes. Duge Mabao had said that Rong Xiao would come back about half a month later. But now it was almost time, and Rong Xiao was still nowhere to be seen. For some reason, she felt a little uneasy in her heart. But this feeling was fleeting, and Chu Luiyue didn't catch it. Chu Yu. Shuisheng and the other two were already waiting for her outside the barrier. Chu Luiyue put away her thoughts and walked outside. Seeing the three of them ready to go, Chu Luiyue couldn't help but laugh. Today is just the qualifiers. Why are you guys so nervous? Shuisheng couldn't help but say, of course I'm nervous. Aren't you afraid of being eliminated at all? If you miss this opportunity, you might not be able to see a sacred artifact again in your life. Chu Luiyue thought to herself. Not to mention other things, I still have a chance for this. Just do your best later. This is much more useful than scratching your ears and cheeks nervously. Luo Shishir and Luo Yanming couldn't help but laugh out loud. The originally tense atmosphere also relaxed a lot. Luo Shishir smiled gently. Chu has a point. Let's go now. Chu Luiyue nodded, and the four of them flew in the direction of the East Emperor Bell Tower. After flying for a distance, Chu Luiyue subconsciously turned her head and looked at Thousand Wine Mountain. Chu Yu, what are you looking at? Shuisheng followed her gaze and couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Why you're not thinking of going to Thousand Wine Mountain again, are you? Nothing good happened every time this guy went there, causing them to be traumatized. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes. That's not it. I'm just thinking, it's been so long, why hasn't Thousand Wine Mountain opened yet? Ah, you're talking about that. Shuisheng immediately understood and became interested. Actually, everyone is secretly thinking about it. Didn't Elder Bo Yen say that it would be closed for a month? It's almost been a month and a half, and there's been no movement. Many people are very curious. Thousand Wine Mountain is an extremely important place in the academy. This time, the elders should be doing this because of some considerations, right? Luo Shishir guessed. But it doesn't affect us much anyway, so there's no need to pay too much attention to it. We just have to wait patiently. Maybe it will open soon. Chu Luiyue paused for a moment and smiled. You're right. Many students had already gathered below the East Emperor Bell. At a glance, it was a vast expanse of black. As soon as Chu Luiyue and the others arrived, the crowd instantly quieted down. Many people looked over with fervent eyes. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1297. This atmosphere. Why does it feel so wrong? Chu Yu, you're here. A girl who looked to be in her teens suddenly took a few steps forward and walked in front of Chu Luiyue with a smile. She was wearing a bright yellow dress and a buyao of the same color on her head. She had an oval face and delicate facial features. She was very beautiful. However, there was a hint of shrewdness in her eyes, which let people know that she was not as unsophisticated as she seemed on the surface. Chu Luiyue's eyebrows twitched. My name is Liao Shuiqing. I came to the academy 3 months earlier than you. You can just call me Qingqing. The girl in front of him did not seem to be embarrassed by Chu Luiyue's unfamiliar gaze. Instead, she introduced herself very generously and even had a hint of intimacy. Luo Shishir, who was standing beside Chu Luiyue, saw this and felt a faint sense of annoyance in her heart. However, she did not show this emotion on her face. As a noble girl from a first-rate family, she still had this kind of cultivation. I heard that you're also planning to go to the northern border of the Great Desolate Land this time. Have you formed a team yet? Can I be in the same group as you? As Liao Shuiqing spoke, she moved closer to Chu Luiyue. A strong and excessive fragrance of cosmetics rushed to the tip of Chu Luiyue's nose, almost choking him. Recently, she had either been collecting medicine in the Medicine Wind Valley or refining pills in the Jiuheng Mountain. She had been immersed in a faint bitter medicinal fragrance all day long. Suddenly changing this, she felt very uncomfortable. She restrained her expression and took half a step back without batting an eyelid. She smiled faintly. I appreciate Senior Sister Liao's kindness, but I've already chosen the people in the same group. As she spoke, she deliberately emphasized. It's the 3 people who came with me. I thought it was very obvious, but I didn't expect Senior Sister Liao to not notice. The smile on Liao Shuiqing's face suddenly disappeared. She crossed her arms in front of her and shrugged. Then, she quickly glanced behind Chu Luiyue. Ah. Is that so? I thought you were going to team up with Senior Rongxiu. What's wrong? Didn't he come with you today? It turned out that they were here for this. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly. She didn't need to look up to know how many pairs of eyes were staring at her. Of course, they were all waiting for her answer. Senior brother Rongxiu has no intention of participating in this mission. Chu Luiyue replied slowly. Many people instantly looked disappointed. After a moment of silence, some whispers could be heard. As expected. I told you he wouldn't come, yes. Senior brother Rongxiu has already left the academy for several years, how could he still be with us? Even if he is interested in that thing, with his identity as the holy son of the Yuntian Tower, he can still go. Sigh, what a pity. I originally thought that even if we can't team up, we can still go together. Now it seems that there is no chance. Some people quietly dispersed. Many people retracted their gazes. Obviously, without Rongxiu's support, Chu Luiyue wasn't very valuable in their eyes. Even Liao Shuiqing couldn't hide her disappointment. However, she still maintained a decent expression on her face. She smiled at Chu Luiyue and said as if she was wronged and acting coquettishly. Ah, it seems that I won't have a chance to spar with you this time. Then. Next time, how about it? Oh right, I forgot to mention that I am also a celestial physician. I just broke through to the 9th grade half a year ago. I heard that junior brother Chuyu is only 16 years old. Compared to junior brother Chuyu, you are really lacking. If it was a teenager who met such a passionate and cheerful beautiful girl, he wouldn't be able to resist at all. She asked you out, but the reason was fair and square. How could you have the nerve to refuse? Luo Shishir felt more and more disgusted with her. It was as if there was a ball of fire burning in her chest. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at Chu Luyue. Chu Yu, we should go over. Liao Shuiqing glanced at her. Chu Luyue nodded and replied politely to Liao Shuiqing. Senior Sister Liao, you flatter us. We still have something to do, so we'll take our leave first. After saying that, he nodded slightly and walked inside without waiting for Liao Shuiqing to say anything. Luo Shishir and the other two followed closely behind. After walking for a while, Shuixing couldn't help but ask. Shishir, why do you seem so angry? Did that Liao Shuiqing offend you? Luo Shishir's ears immediately turned red. No, I just feel that. I feel that, she seems to be targeting us. We all came together, but she still asked that. She clearly did it on purpose. Shuixing still felt that something was wrong. It's not the first time we've met such people. In the past, you couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. Today, why? Sigh, I can't say it either. Luo Shishir hurriedly said. Even a clay figurine has a temper. I just feel that it's not good for her to be like this. You're thinking too much. Shuixing wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Luo Yanming. I heard that the number of people in the team is not fixed. If there are suitable people, we can also pull them over. However, the prerequisite is that we have to pass today's test first. The elders are going to screen all the people who want to go to the northern border of the primeval world today. Only those who pass can go with the main group of the academy. Those who are eliminated can only stay in the academy. After being interrupted by Luo Yanming, Shuixing didn't ask any more questions. Luo Shishir couldn't help but sneak a glance at Chu Luyue before quickly retracting her gaze. Luo Yanming saw it clearly from the side and couldn't help but shake her head. It seems that fourth brother was right. Shishir really has some feelings for Chu Yu, but Chu Yu seems to be indifferent. I don't know if he really doesn't know or if he's pretending not to know. Luo Yanming thought in her heart, when there's time, I'll have to probe them separately. Chu Luyue walked at the front and took the lead in the qualification check. The elder in charge was an acquaintance, Elder Wensi. Elder Wensi wasn't surprised to see him. He raised his chin, take out the black jade token. Chu Luyue handed it over with both hands. Elder Wensi touched his green jade token with it. Chu Luyue saw a few lines of words appear on his black jade token. It seemed to be related to her current level of strength. Hiss, Elder Wensi sucked in a breath of cold air, then suddenly raised his head and looked at Chu Luyue suspiciously. When did this kid break through to this realm? I didn't hear any news at all. Those lines of words quickly disappeared. Chu Luyue couldn't help but ask Elder Wensi, am I considered qualified? Elder Wensi wanted to knock her head with the token. Asking the obvious. Yes. If she didn't even pass this, then a large number of people in the academy would be stuck. Chu Luyue smiled. Thank you, Elder Wensi. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1298. At this moment, there was a small commotion in the crowd. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw a familiar face. Jiang Ji-won. She actually came back at this time. Chu Luiyue narrowed his eyes. Ziyuan, you're finally back. Liang Xiaoxiao was chatting happily with a few people. When she saw Jiang Ji-won come back, a trace of surprise flashed across her eyes, and then she quickly greeted her with a smile. We thought you weren't coming. Jiang Ji-won pursed her lips and smiled. I've been at home for a while. If I didn't come back, I would have been left behind in my studies. Liang Xiaoxiao smiled and said, You came back at the right time. Have you seen the mission list? Today is the day to select the candidates to go to the northern region of the Untainted Land. If you came back 2 days later, you wouldn't be able to make it. Jiang Ji-won nodded. I heard about it. It seems that we're going in a team. I remember that when the mission list was released last time, we acted together. I didn't expect that we would have to go so far this time. The smile on Liang Xiaoxiao's face suddenly became a little awkward. Ziyuan, you didn't say that you were coming back. I've already formed a team with others. It's not appropriate to kick someone out at the last minute. Only then did Jiang Ziyuan realize something, and her face stiffened. But don't worry, even if we're not in the same team, we can still go together. Liang Xiaoxiao glanced at her cautiously. Ziyuan, you're not angry with me, are you? Jiang Ji-won suppressed the anger in her heart and forced a smile. Why would I be? I know that I came back suddenly, and you've already formed a team. There's nothing I can do. It's okay, I'll find someone else. With that, she looked around and then walked in a certain direction. There were still many people around, so Jiang Ji-won had to maintain her expression. But in her heart, she had already developed disgust and resentment towards Liang Xiaoxiao. On the surface, Liang Xiaoxiao looked enthusiastic, but her words and actions revealed her rejection. Obviously, Liang Xiaoxiao had already decided to alienate her. Just because she lost to Lin Qifei and made a slip of the tongue. No matter what the reason was, she had seen through it. A few years of friendship was not worth mentioning at all. Liang Xiaoxiao looked at her back and crossed her arms. A smile appeared on her delicate and seductive face. Xiaoxiao, the number of people in each team is not fixed. Even if there is one more person, it doesn't matter. Why are you? A woman at the side couldn't help but come over and whisper. Liang Xiaoxiao raised her eyebrows and looked at her. What about you and her? As long as you're willing, we can do anything. No, forget it. The woman shrunk her neck and hurriedly refused. Another young man chuckled and said, Actually, Xiaoxiao is doing this for the good of all of us. Ziyuan. Everything else is actually quite good, but she seems to be out of it recently. What if something happens to her when she's in a trance? We can't afford it. In fact, these words were a little pompous. Jiang Ji-won's condition was bad before she left the academy. For her to bring it up now, it was obvious that she was just looking for an excuse. In fact, because of the previous incident, Jiang Ji-won's image in the academy had plummeted. Many people felt that she was two-faced and were unwilling to be with her. Furthermore, based on her behavior, she might have offended Rong Xiu long ago. No one wanted to take the risk of standing on the opposite side of Rong Xiu. Jiang Ji-won might be outstanding, but she wasn't the only girl like her in the academy. There were plenty of noble ladies with good backgrounds, good looks, and good talent in the academy. There was no need to keep chasing after her. Liang Xiaoxiao tucked her fringe behind her ear and turned around. Everyone has their own destiny. Let's go about our own business first. Jiang Ji-won looked for a few more people, but without exception, they were all rejected with various reasons. The smile on her face became harder and harder, and the anger in her heart burned more and more fiercely. How long has it been? She had only left the academy for a short period of time, and such a huge change had happened. These people used to chase after her, but now they all avoided her like a poisonous scorpion. Even those who were once the closest to her had now abandoned her without any hesitation. After being rejected again, Jiang Ji-won clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Her face burned as if she had been slapped a few times. She had never been ostracized like this in Lingxiao College. This situation was worse than she had expected. She wanted to find a hole to hide in right now. I really didn't expect that Jiang Ji-won would have such a day. Shuixing pursed his lips. Thinking back to when she first came, she was quite popular in the academy. Isn't it because she did something wrong? Luo Yanming said lightly. Chu Luiyue looked for a while, then retracted his gaze. Jiang Ji-won was too impatient. Such a person was really nothing to worry about. Thousand Wine Mountain. Elder Bo Yan and Elder Ouyang stood at the top of the mountain, looking at the spring with furrowed brows. What the hell is going on? After a while, Elder Ouyang spoke in a low voice. It has been so long, but the spring still hasn't recovered. Actually, half a month ago, they had already restored everything in Thousand Wine Mountain to normal. But because they all came at night, they only found out that there was something wrong with the spring during the day. It was no longer gushing with spring water. In the past, spring water would gush out continuously during the day and flow down. But now, it had stopped. They came every day to look, but the results were the same every day. Elder Bo Yan walked down the mountain. Call Chu Yu over. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1299. When she saw Elder Ouyang heading straight for her, Chu Luiyue had a bad premonition. Sure enough, after they met, Elder Ouyang only said a few words concisely. Chu Yu, follow me. Everyone's attention was attracted by this sudden scene. Many people were curious and surprised. Elder Ouyang was a weapon refiner and rarely came out. Why did he suddenly look for Chu Yu? Chu Luiyue paused. May I know why Elder Ouyang is looking for me? Elder Ouyang stared at her with an unfathomable gaze, as if he was considering whether her blank expression was real or fake. You'll know later. With that, Elder Ouyang turned and left. Chu Luiyue was about to follow when Luo Shishir couldn't help but tug at her. Chu Yu, she felt that something was amiss. Chu Luiyue shook her head. Don't worry. I'll be back soon. With that, she quickly followed Elder Ouyang's footsteps and left together. Only the onlookers were left looking at each other. Chu Luiyue followed Elder Ouyang to the foot of Thousand Wine Mountain. Elder Bo Yan was standing with his hands behind his back. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. As Thousand Wine Mountain had been closed recently, there were basically no people who came here. At this moment, there were only Chu Luiyue and the other two here. Chu Yu. Elder Bo Yan saw him and spoke first. Chu Luiyue immediately went forward. Elder Bo Yan, why are you looking for me? Elder Bo Yan looked at her with a sharp gaze, as if he wanted to look into her heart. What did you promise before? Chu Luiyue was confused, as if she didn't understand what was going on. Elder Bo Yan, what are you talking about? Elder Bo Yan snorted coldly. Don't say that the situation at Thousand Wine Mountain has nothing to do with you. This time, Chu Luiyue really didn't know what Elder Bo Yan was referring to. She vaguely guessed that it might have something to do with dumpling, but she didn't know the specifics. Seeing that Chu Luiyue's expression did not seem to be fake, Elder Bo Yan's heart began to beat faster. Could it really have nothing to do with this brat? However, it was only after Chu Yu caused a ruckus at Thousand Wine Mountain that the spring became like this. This student is slow-witted, please enlighten me, Elder Bo Yen. Chu Luiyue asked cautiously. Elder Bo Yen stared at her and did not speak for a long while. The spring was of great importance. Now that it had suddenly become like this, it could not be easily leaked. How could he tell Chu Yu directly? Thus, the two sides entered a stalemate. Elder Ouyang couldn't stand it anymore and said, Chu Yu, when you were refining the artifact spirit that day, didn't you notice anything unusual? Maybe it wasn't Chu Yu's problem. Chu Luiyue shook his head. At that time, all of the students' attention was focused on that and had no time to care about anything else. That was true. Elder Ouyang and Elder Ouyang looked at each other, feeling a little worried. Bo Yen, Ouyang, you're looking for me. At this moment, a low and powerful laughter broke the silence. It was Shang Yusin. The two of them were smiling and seemed to be in a good mood. However, when he saw the three of them, he realized that something was amiss. Shang Yusin retracted the smile on his face and asked seriously, what's wrong? Ouyang, bring him up. Elder Bo Yen said. Elder Ouyang nodded and then brought the confused Shang Yusin into Thousand Wine Mountain again. After the two of them left, only Elder Bo Yen and Chu Luiyue were left staring at each other. Chu Yu, if you tell us the truth now, we can reduce your punishment. Elder Bo Yen said with a heavy heart. Chu Luiyue was now even more certain that there was a problem with the spring in Thousand Wine Mountain, but Dumpling was not exposed. Otherwise, Elder Bo Yen wouldn't have to test her so many times. Thus, she also refused to let go of the matter. This student really doesn't understand, please, give me some hints. Elder Bo Yen was so angry that his heart choked. He could tell that Chu Yu didn't fall for his tricks at all. Although this kid was only 16 or 17 years old and looked harmless to humans and animals, he was actually very mature and experienced, making him difficult to fathom. After all, he was brought out by Rong Xiao and was as troublesome as him. Elder Bo Yan's expression became dangerous. Only the three of you were present at Thousand Wine Mountain that day. This matter must have something to do with one of you. Which of the three of you do you think it is? Chu Luiyue lowered her eyes and smiled bitterly. This student doesn't even know what happened, so how can I admit it? Are you sure it's me? Of course. Elder Bo Yan's expression couldn't be clearer. Ouyang and Shang Yusin knew how important the spring was and definitely wouldn't do anything. The only possibility, isn't it Chu Yu? Everything will be clear when they come down. Chu Luiyue glanced at the mountain. She couldn't see anything through the barrier, but she could vaguely feel that Dumpling's condition wasn't bad. After a human and a magical beast formed a contract, there would be a subtle connection between them. After Dumpling stayed here, she seemed to have entered a stable and calm state. This was also one of the reasons why she felt slightly more at ease. Dumpling had already stayed inside for more than the month that the legendary three-eyed eagle said, and she didn't know when she would come out. Bo Yen. After a while, Elder Ouyang and Elder Bo Yen returned. Elder Bo Yen looked over and saw that Elder Ouyang's expression was a little strange. He frowned. What's wrong? What did you find out? Elder Ouyang glanced at Chu Luiyue. Elder Bo Yen said in a deep voice. Chu Yu, are you still not going to admit it? Before Chu Luiyue could say anything, she heard Elder Ouyang hurriedly say from the side. Chu Yu isn't to blame for this. What? A trace of shock flashed across Elder Bo Yan's face. Afraid that he would misunderstand, Elder Ouyang hurriedly explained. Then. All right. All right. Elder Bo Yen was stunned for a moment, then he immediately understood what he meant. You'll know when you go up. In front of Chu Luiyue, Elder Ouyang couldn't be too direct. How could he explain this? An hour ago, when he and Bo Yen went up, the spring was still a pool of stagnant water. In the end, when he and Shang Yusin went over, they saw that the spring had already recovered. Hearing him say this, Elder Bo Yen didn't believe it and went up the mountain. After a while, he returned with an indescribable expression on his face. Shang Yusin couldn't help but laugh. "Hey, it's clearly nothing, why are you so nervous? You called Chu Yu over before you even found out, look at how scared the child is." Ever since Chu Luiyue showed him the Scarlet Heaven Sword, Shang Yusin's attitude towards Chu Luiyue was extremely good. At this moment, he also stood up to speak up for him. Elder Bo Yen and Elder Ouyang looked at each other in confusion. Could it be, it really had nothing to do with him? Forget it, you can go back. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1300. That student will go back first. Chu Luiyue bowed respectfully and left. She did not look back as she left. Looking at her receding figure, the remaining 3 elders had different expressions on their faces. Bo Yen, it's not appropriate for you to do this. Shang Yusin touched his chin. What if this child is traumatized? Elder Bo Yen snorted. He's not that weak. But you shouldn't have come to such a conclusion when you're not sure. Shang Yusin's expression became more serious. Elder Bo Yen was startled, then shook his head. I'm in the wrong. Actually, you can't blame Bo Yen entirely. Yusin, you don't know, but during that period of time, there was no movement in the spring. Bo Yen and I observed for a long time before we decided to ask Chu Yu. Who knew that when you came today, it actually, Elder Ouyang frowned, he could not figure it out. Maybe it was because Chu Yu was refining the weapon soul, which affected it a little. But now that it's recovered, you don't have to worry too much. Although Shang Yusin had not been here for a long time, he believed that Ouyang was telling the truth. After thinking about it, they were still too concerned, even a little too much. Elder Bo Yen stroked his beard and sighed helplessly. If not for that kid always doing things, I wouldn't. Shang Yusin choked, he felt that it made sense. Since all the problems have been solved, there's no need to be so nervous. If you're still worried, just observe for a few more days. Elder Bo Yen nodded. Then let's wait until the day we go to the north. You're going too? Shang Yusin was surprised. You're not staying in the academy. When the dean was not around, Elder Bo Yen had always been in charge of the academy. Even if there was something, he would send the other elders out. This time, Elder Bo Yen actually wanted to lead someone personally. It was really surprising. This is a matter of great importance, and everyone is vying for supremacy. It's safer for me to go. Also, Elder Bo Yen frowned. This time, we might be able to find the dean's whereabouts. Chu Luiyue once again returned to the Green Darkness Square. Many people looked over curiously with different expressions. Chu Luiyue's expression was calm. He ignored all of them and walked straight back to Luo Shishir and the others. Only then did he realize that there was something wrong with their expressions. What's going on? Chu Luiyue asked curiously. Shuo Xing sighed heavily. I didn't get chosen. Luo Yanming said, and me. Chu Luiyue was very surprised. Where's Shishir? Luo Shishir pursed her lips. I've tried. But. However, she couldn't bring herself to be happy about this outcome. Their original plan was for the 4 of them to go together, but now it was definitely impossible. Chu Luiyue suddenly understood. No wonder the atmosphere was so gloomy. Hey! Actually, it's not a big deal. Previously, I felt that I might not have made it. There are so many outstanding students in the academy, it's normal that I didn't make it. Shusheng was the first to get excited. He looked at Chu Luyue and grinned. Chu Yu, you have to perform well this time. Do your best for your brother. I'm still waiting to bask in your glory when you come back. It was true that he was disappointed and regretful, but the outcome was already out, so it was useless to be sad. Although Shusheng was usually carefree, there was one advantage to this: he was big-hearted. After being sad, he still liked to eat and drink, and he wouldn't take it to heart. Such a person lived a more open and comfortable life. Luo Yanming sighed in his heart. He was actually still a little upset, but there were more important things that were worth his attention. Chu Yu, I'll have to trouble you to take care of Shishir in the future. She rarely went out before, so there are many things that she doesn't know. If she causes you trouble. That's for sure. Chu Luyue interrupted him with a smile and said seriously. Shishir is my friend, so I'll naturally protect her. Only then did Luo Yanming feel relieved. I'll go with you. At this moment, someone suddenly walked over from the side. Fourth brother. Luo Shishir and the other two were surprised to see Luo Yanlin, especially Luo Shishir. She took a few steps forward, grabbed his arm, and asked, Fourth brother, are you going too? I've never heard him mention it before. Luo Yanlin laughed. I should be the one asking you this. You've only been here for a few months. You dare to take such a big risk. I've already discussed it with a few friends. Shishir, you and Chu Yu can come with us. Luo Shishir looked at Chu Luyue inquisitively. Luo Yanlin made another bet in his heart. Thank you, senior brother Luo. Chu Luyue smiled and cupped his hands. Luo Yanlin didn't want to talk to her anymore, but for the sake of his sister's face, he could only say, the academy is planning to set off tomorrow. You guys go back and prepare today. Yes. Chu Luyue went straight back to Mount Joheng. It wasn't until she entered the room and locked the doors and windows that she pressed one hand on her chest and let out a long breath. Fortunately, it was scary but not dangerous. If she had done anything wrong today, she probably wouldn't have been able to come back. You still know how to be afraid. Dugu Mabao's voice suddenly sounded. Chu Luyue was shocked. Only then did she see that Dugu Mabao was already in the room. His strength was much higher than Chu Luyue's. It was easy for him to hide his tracks and aura in front of her. Big baby, you scared me. Chu Luyue closed her eyes and calmed her wild heartbeat. Then, she froze and looked at the opposite side suspiciously. You know. Dugu Mabao didn't say anything. He only raised his hand and threw something over. Chu Luyue caught it subconsciously. Smack! It was soft and wet to the touch. Chu Luyue took a closer look, and the corner of her eyes twitched violently. Tuan, dumpling. This red palm-sized lump, if it wasn't dumpling, who else could it be? However, at this moment, it seemed to be sleeping. Its head was buried in one of its wings, and no matter how Dugu Mabao swung it around, it didn't show any signs of waking up. Its body was covered in water, and its fluffy feathers were stuck tightly to its body. It looked a little bald. Of course, there was a more direct word to describe it: ugly. Other than the occasional flash of silver lightning on its body, it looked a little unusual. Chu Luyue didn't want to recognize this as her contracted magical beast. It soaked in the spring for too long and got drunk. Dugu Mabao said coldly. Chu Luyue was speechless. Normal people won't get drunk after drinking the spring water, but magical beasts can't avoid it if they drink too much. Not to mention, it swallowed so much Tianlei's power. Dugu Mabao raised its eyes slightly and looked at Chu Luyue. Do you know how much Tianlei's power accumulated in the spring for years has been consumed by it? If I didn't fish it out in time, who knows how long it would have slept there. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1301. Every time Dugu Mabao said a word, Chu Liuyue's heart would beat violently. In the end, her face turned slightly hot, and a rare trace of embarrassment appeared on her face. Dumpling, who was in her hands, was obviously cold all over, but at this moment, it seemed to have become a hot potato. If not for the fact that it was her contracted magical beast, Chu Liyue would have really lost control and handed it over to Dugu Mabao for him to deal with. Suddenly, an idea flashed in her mind. So, when Elder Bo Yen and the rest called me over today, it was also because of your help. Dugu Mabao snorted coldly. I've already warned you not to casually go to Thousand Wine Mountain. Did you turn a deaf ear to my words? Debao. I knew you were the best. However, Chu Liyue couldn't hold herself back as she rushed forward and hugged him. It's all thanks to you today. Otherwise, I would have been finished. Dugu Mabao's voice came out from Chu Liyue's shoulder with difficulty. It was muffled, but it was extremely dangerous. If you don't let go of me, I'll let you know what it means to be finished. Chu Liyue hurriedly let go of him. Looking closely, Dugu Mabao's hair was already messed up like a chicken's nest. Coupled with his cold and angry little face, it was simply perfect. Chu Liyue coughed and carefully stretched out her hands to help him comb his hair. Cough, look at your hair, it's messy. Dugu Mabao stared at her, a demonic light flashing in his purple eyes. Chu Liyue tactfully retracted her hand and explained embarrassedly. It's all my fault for not being able to stop Dumpling at that time and allowing it to run in. After that, I was busy refining my weapon spirit and forgot about it for a moment. Later on, when I thought about it, Elder Bo Yen and the others had already sealed the mountain. If you really can't do it, Chu Liyue seemed to have made up her mind. She placed Tuanzi on the table and pushed it in Dugu Mabao's direction as she reluctantly said, you can punish me however you want. Dumpling, who was still in a drunken stupor, moved uneasily, as if she knew that she had been ruthlessly abandoned. Chu Liyue could no longer care about it. He clasped his hands together and smiled at Dugu Mabao. Debao, don't be angry. Dugu Mabao turned his head away. Every time he saw her like this, his heart softened easily. Definitely not this time. After calming himself down, he said, Bo Yen is right about one thing. If you don't learn your lesson and continue to cause trouble without restraint, sooner or later you will cause trouble. Chu Liyue looked pitiful. Then how do you want to punish me? Play chess with me, or fight with me? When he said the last few words, the corner of Chu Liyue's eyes twitched. This might really not work, Dugu Mabao said coldly. For the next period of time, other than cultivating here in peace, you are not allowed to do anything else. I will set up a barrier here. You can only leave when you break it. Chu Liyue was stunned. But the academy is leaving for the northern region of the primordial wilderness tomorrow. Dugu Mabao glanced at her. Just say that you can't go. There are so many elders and students in the academy. You're not the only one. Only then did Chu Liyue realize that Dugu Mabao was serious. He really wanted to do this. But Chu Liyue was a little conflicted. I've already made an appointment with them, and I've already passed the examination. If I give up just like that, she wasn't looking for any treasures or opportunities. She was purely worried. The real heavenly square cauldron was with her. The mastermind had deliberately planned such a big scheme. If she didn't go, however, Dugu Mabao's attitude was very firm. He waved his sleeve, and a huge silver Xian formation appeared in front of her. It quickly covered the entire room. Chu Liyue wanted to persuade him again. Debeo, if you want to punish me, I accept. But can you wait for me to come back? When you break this Xian formation, I naturally won't stop you. After Dugu Maobao finished speaking, his figure instantly disappeared from the room. Chu Luiyue. After sitting quietly in the room for a while, Chu Luiyue finally realized what had happened. She glanced at Dumpling, who was still sleeping on the table. At this moment, the water on its body had decreased a little. However, silver Tianlei could still be seen flashing across its body. Its pair of beautiful and cunning eyes were tightly shut. There were no signs of it waking up. Chu Luiyue rubbed her forehead. She felt that it was a little strange. She and Dugu Maobao had known each other for so long. Although he would often get angry because of her teasing, most of the time, he wouldn't really get angry. Even if he was occasionally strict, it was only when he was teaching her cultivation. However, today, his reaction was really a little off. Was it really because the secret of the spring on Thousand Wine Mountain was too important that he was acting like this? However, if that was the case, he didn't even need to intervene. He could just let Elder Bo Yen and the rest deal with her. Now, Dugu Maobao brought Dumpling out and erased those traces. However, he locked her up here, Chu Luiyue thought for a while. She kept Dumpling and tried to walk out of the door. When she walked around the room, everything was normal. Then, she pushed the door open and walked forward cautiously. After taking 20 steps, Chu Luiyue felt an invisible force blocking her path. She stopped and turned around to look at the room. She could vaguely see streaks of light flickering on the ground inside. This was the power of the Xian formation that he left behind. Chu Luiyue tried a few times. She realized that she couldn't force her way through, so she gave up. She returned to the room and closed the door and windows. She started to focus on studying the Xian formation on the ground. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1302. The night passed in the blink of an eye. The morning sun shone in through the window. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes and simply lay back. Phew, Debeo is determined. This Xian formation was the most difficult one she had seen so far. It was even more difficult than the one left behind by Dugu Maobao. She hadn't even cracked that one yet, let alone this one. Chu Luiyue rubbed her temples. After studying for an entire night, she didn't make any progress. She was almost certain that she wouldn't be able to get out today. Suddenly, a fluctuation came from her dantian. An idea popped up in Chu Luiyue's mind, and she summoned Tuanzi. The commotion just now had come from its body. Compared to yesterday, the number of Tianlei flashing on its body had decreased by a lot. It should have been absorbed by it bit by bit. However, its eyes were tightly shut and it still didn't show any signs of waking up. Chu Luiyue picked it up and looked around carefully. Yesterday, Dumpling's entire body was wet, so she couldn't tell. Now, she realized that the color of Dumpling's feathers had become much darker than before. At a glance, it looked like a burning red flame, rich and intense. Chu Luiyue remembered that it had only soaked in the spring for a short while before falling asleep for a long time. This time, she really didn't know when it would wake up. But when it wakes up this time, it should be when the power of its bloodline is completely activated, right? Thinking of this, Chu Luiyue's heart finally felt a lot more comforted. Chu Yu. Chu Yu. Luo Shishir's voice came from outside. Chu Luiyue sighed, turned over, packed up, and walked outside. She immediately saw Luo Shishir, who was hovering outside the barrier. Chu Yu, we should set off. Many people have already gathered at Qingming Square. Luo Shishir waved at Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue took a few steps forward and stood at a safe distance. Sure, please help me apply for leave. Just say that I'm not feeling well and I'm afraid I won't be able to go this time. Luo Sure was shocked. Are you sick? Is it serious? I'll help you ask the elders to come over and take a look. Chu Luiyue hurriedly said, no need. It's an old problem. I've already taken some medicine. I'll be fine after resting for a while. However, in this state, he definitely could not go to the northern region of the Great Desolate Land. I'm really sorry. Luo Sure saw that Chu Luiyue's complexion was indeed a little haggard, and her heart was a little worried. However, seeing her resolute attitude, she agreed. Then I'll help you talk to the elders. You take care of yourself. If he couldn't hold on any longer, he had to seek help from the elders. Chu Luiyue smiled gratefully. Thank you. Many people were shocked when they heard that Chu Luiyue had left the team because she was unwell. After all, such an opportunity was extremely rare. It would be a pity to give it up. Even Elder Bo Yan was a little surprised. He asked a few more questions about Chu Luiyue's situation. Elder Wanzheng was worried, so he simply went to Jiuheng Mountain himself. Chu Luiyue had no choice but to explain again. She tried her best to convince Elder Wanzheng that she was fine. Because Elder Wanzheng was also going to the northern region of the Great Desolate Land this time, he left after confirming that Chu Luiyue was fine. Chu Luiyue finally calmed down. Although she was worried, the real Heavenly Square Cauldron was with her, which gave Chu Luiyue enough confidence. She began to focus on breaking the Xian formation. Lingxiao College's team this time was huge. There were a total of more than 30 elders and more than 300 students heading to the northern region of the Great Desolate Land together. After these people left, the entire college became much quieter. However, the cultivation atmosphere was stronger than before. Many students who failed this time secretly made up their minds to work hard to become stronger and strive to not miss such an opportunity in the future. Strength was always the most powerful voice. Everything seemed to have returned to how it was before. The days of studying Xian formations alone were very boring. If it was someone else, they would probably feel very uncomfortable after a day or two. However, this was not the case for Chu Luiyue. She had a good mentality. She knew that Dugu Maobao was thinking about her, so she stayed in the small space without any complaints and studied the Xian formation bit by bit. Occasionally, when she felt tired, she would choose to read the doctor's book that Elder Wanzheng had left behind. 3 days later, as if afraid that she would be bored, Dugu Maobao threw a puppet over to accompany her. Yes, the beginner stage of the 9th level. When Chu Luiyue was finally able to fight evenly with this puppet, Dugu Maobao threw over a second one. In the room, Chu Luiyue sat cross-legged. She crossed her arms with one hand and supported her chin with the other. Her expression was serious. She looked at the complicated Xian formation on the ground and the 2 puppets that were ready to enter battle at any time. She fell into deep thought. Did she offend Dabeo in the past? 5 days later. Chu Luiyue dispelled this question. Although she did not solve the Xian formation that Dabeo trapped her in, she successfully solved the previous Xian formation in the process. Above level 9 Xian Master was Xian King Master. She had a faint premonition in her heart. Perhaps, before she broke through Doctor and Demigod, she would first reach a higher level above Xian Master. During this period of time, Dumpling did not make any movements and remained in a deep sleep. However, Chu Luiyue could clearly feel the huge changes in its body. This change was silent, as calm as the spring rain moistening things. However, Chu Luiyue knew that one day, this would definitely shock countless people. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.